Agenda items. Let's try that again. Is that when streaming starts too, when you hit recording in progress? Okay. I call the Hillsboro School District 1J work session to order. We begin with our first item, the Bond Oversight Committee. We have Adam and Matt with us. Thank you guys for being here tonight.
Thank you for having us again. Matt, did you want to kick us off tonight?
Sure. Again, I'm Matt Buckingham, and I am the chair of the Citizens Bond Oversight Committee. We've been meeting for the past year, touring projects that we worked on this year. Had good attendance and got a lot of stuff done. A lot of extra things done that we didn't think we were going to be able to afford when we passed the bond. So very successful.
Yep. So this is our 2023 is the 6th year of the bond. So we passed the bond back in 2017, and we formed the oversight committee early in 2018. So we've had an opportunity to share lots of cool information with you of all the successes. And tonight you're going to see a little bit different format. We're going to talk about the bond promise and kind of how we have progressed through all of the promises that we've made. And I think you'll be impressed with all the work we've done. So, all right, let's.
Matt been the chair of the committee from the outset?
Pardon?
Matt, have you been the chair?
Oh, yeah.
Yes,
I think that's true, right?
That's right. I've been the chair from the outside of the committee. I was also on the original bond committee where we were going over what we want to do with the bond. And there were all these things we wanted to do, and there was what we could afford to do. So we had what we could afford to do, what we hoped we could do if we had a little bit of extra money, and we've been really successful in getting a lot of that stuff done as well. So I've been able to watch the whole process.
Thank you for committing that much time to it. Thank you.
Yeah,
He was also part of the long range
I'm still
planning, which has kind of been on hold during this bond process. They'll probably be calling you in here. So let's go ahead. We're going. Just some updates on the financials for the bond. We have spent about $472 million so far of the $508 million that we have to spend. We have $34 million in remaining commitments. Those are primarily the balance we owe on the new elementary school in South Hillsboro, the solar project at Liberty, and then technology. So Jordan has ongoing technology stuff that he's going to be spending out over the next 3 or 4 years. And we've got about $4.4 million that we have not committed to anything at this point. Yeah. That is just a look at kind of a year-by-year expenditure. 2019-20 was our big year. We spent almost $200 million that year. But that's just a breakdown of how we spent that $472 million. So again, with a little bit different format this time, but we want to highlight the promises that we made to the community and where we are. So everywhere that you see a green check mark, those projects are completed. Those promises have been met. So the first big category for the bond promise was to prioritize safety and security. And that included the safety and security upgrades at all schools, entry vestibules, security systems, fencing, camera systems, card key access. All of that work has now been done. The very first summer of the bond, we put cameras and GPS systems in all of our school buses. We upgraded all of our buildings to the seismic levels that we talked about with the board. And we also have done all of the roofing projects that we had discussed. We have completed all of the playground upgrades at the 7 elementary schools, plus the 3 new schools that we discussed. We have the parent bus drop-off improvements complete now. Tobias Elementary was the last one that we finished just this last summer. So those are all complete now. So we now have separate parent bus, or parent and bus and pedestrian areas at all of our schools. There's a note there that anything you see italicized are things that we had hoped to be able to accomplish. And in this case, we wanted to be able to upgrade the new elementary gyms to the higher immediate occupancy seismic standard. We were able to accomplish that. So that's also going to check mark.
If I can just pipe in here, the one thing I've always appreciated about the Hillsboro schools is that when we embarked on this whole bond process, the number one priority of this district has always been the safety and security of our students. And yeah, staff, of course. And we've really done that. The big thing that's always concerned me is what happens when the big one comes. We have a cascading of subduction zone earthquake. Now we've got all the schools just about as upgraded as we can get them, and with the gyms, we're upgraded to immediate occupancy. What that means is that in a quake, you want the building to hold together long enough to get the kids out. What immediate occupancy standard means is that after the quake, you will be able to go back in, hopefully, and use that building. That building will still be usable. A gymnasium can be used for a relief center for people in the community that maybe are now homeless because of the quake. With the entry vestibules, for example, school shootings, of course, have unfortunately become a serious part of our world, and that's something we've got to do something about. We can't control who can own a gun, who can carry a gun, where they can carry it, but we can make our schools safe so that if we have a school invasion situation, we are prepared to respond to that and we have a protection against that. And that is the thing I really appreciate about the bond promises we made. These were our first priorities, making the schools safe and secure.
Not only are the buildings, able to survive more severe earthquakes, with the completion of this, does this leave us with no schools with Catholic gymatoriums remaining?
Correct. That's correct.
So every school now has a separate gym and cafeteria facility, correct?
And all the schools have safety and security vestibules, whether they're new construction, whether they're old construction. When the kids come to school, the doors are open. They can come in. When school starts, school is now set up secure where parents and kids have to come through the main entrance, check in with the office, and there is a vestibule there that's kind of a buffer there between the inside of the school and the outside. And with the parent bus drop-offs, with so many of the schools, we had buses coming in, parents coming in, sharing the same parking areas, drive-ups. That is now completely separated. So you don't have kids running from a bus getting hit by a car, kids jumping out of the car getting hit by a bus. None of that's gone.
It never did.
Now it's less risk.
I feel better now, thank you.
Yes. The next major category for the bond promise was renovate and repair aging schools. We have done millions and millions and millions of dollars in HVAC, plumbing, electrical upgrades. We did our very first summer some very significant remodeling and upgrading at Reedville Elementary School. We also did some very significant remodeling at Hill High, and we'll see a little bit more on Hill High here shortly. We replaced we replaced many of our portable classrooms that were in the poorest condition. We were also able to replace some additional portables, which was another one of our hope to do wish list items. We installed lighted turf fields at Century, Glencoe, and Hill High. We've replaced lots of pavement, sidewalks, and other hardscapes. I can't tell if that's showing as italicized or not, but it is. It was one of those things that we had hoped to be able to do. And you'll see here shortly, we were able to, just this last summer, replace one of the playgrounds at Lad Acres, which was in really poor condition. In addition to the parking lots at Hill High and sidewalks at Hill High, and lots of other hardscape surfaces around the district. Another one of our wish list items was the replacement of single pane windows in the district. We did 3 schools this last summer: Groner, North Plains, and West Union, replaced all those single pane windows. So I think we replaced them all now. I don't believe we have any more single pane windows in the district. So that's a great thing from an energy conservation standpoint and just a standpoint. Replace and resurface tennis courts. We were able to replace and resurface all of the tennis courts at all 3, or at 3 of the high schools. Liberty were still in good condition, so we didn't have to do that. But that was another one of those things we had hoped to be able to do that was great to accomplish. Okay.
Yeah, on a personal note, for example, the air conditioning. The school that my children went to, Farmington View Elementary, was like half air conditioned and half not. Now it's got air conditioning throughout the whole building. I'm not sure you can do that this year, but that was something that was part of this whole process. The tennis courts at Century, when they were put in, the contractor just didn't do it right, and there was no way really to fix it. We had to replace the whole thing, but we were able to do that at Century as well as those other high schools that were out there. You put back to the list. There's one of the another thing, early in the bond process, one thing that bothered me is when I go to a school and there's portables there that actually have moss like growing on the roof. Portables are a misnomer. There's nothing portable about them. For the most part, you put them in at incredible expense and they stay there until the crack of doom. We went in and we got rid of most of the really bad ones. We weren't able to get rid of all of the portables, but we were able to replace the ones that were really in need of work, and the ones that are left are in really good shape. So I was really pleased with it.
And I commend your innovative thinking on like going modular where modular makes sense, stick built where stick built makes sense. I mean, like, I feel like the construction team made very good choices, taking into consideration the uniqueness of every site.
Yeah, and just to be clear, the distinction between a portable building and a modular building is that the modular buildings are on a foundation. They're at grade. They're just built offsite with rock. So they really are up to all the current construction standards and everything. So.
And when we went to some of these older schools like Reedville and Hill High, which you see up on that list, let's just say we discovered some surprises inside the walls, and we responded and we got that taken care of and spent the money to get things fixed so that, you know, an historic school like Reedville is virtually brand new and yet it still retains the old historic character of the original school.
We don't want to know that was.
We heard about that.
Well, they're already. Another bond promise was to relieve crowded classrooms with plan for growth. This is where the 8 new gymnasiums to replace the old gym and cafetoriums came into play. Those are, again, were built to the immediate occupancy seismic standard. We did some significant expansion at Evergreen and Glencoe, which is in the Glencoe feeder group where we anticipate seeing the most growth and the most need for additional capacity. We built a satellite transportation maintenance facility out off the Jacobson Road over by Liberty to help. Well, it gave us additional capacity, which we were in real need of for our bus transportation department. And it also makes for a more efficient transportation routing system. And then the next item there is not checked off. The construction of 2 new elementary schools and the replacement of Brookwood. And all the reason it's not is that we're still under construction at Tamarack Elementary School. We just had at one of the OAC meetings there this morning, had a chance to walk through that building. It's coming right along. We're framing classrooms out as we speak. So,
You know, another thing we did, but I don't think it's reflected on this list, is, you know, a lot of the classrooms what we discovered is that the lighting just wasn't optimal. And there's so many classrooms, I'm thinking of like Hill High is one I'm thinking of, where, you know, they might have had a slat kind of window like this. Just in so many ways, we've improved the lighting, whether through natural light or lighting we put in, we've improved the lighting of our schools to make them a much more brighter, welcoming place for our students.
I think if you remember back to our long-range planning process, one of the things we talked about was the idea of an equitable learning environment. We wanted every student, regardless of what building they attended, where they lived in the community, to have access to the same technology, to the same bright classrooms, so that we didn't have those kind of haves and have. So again, that was a major focus. Provide a modern education for every student. This included our flexible classroom furniture. We spent the first 2 summers of the bond putting new classroom furniture in every classroom. These types of tables in a lot of cases. But as you can see, we have now given every classroom in the district the upgraded furniture. We wanted to expand our CTE spaces and options. Again, that's not completely done because we're under construction still with the solar project at Liberty High School, but we have completed CTE expansion projects at every high school, including Liberty, with their sustainable agriculture program.
And that whole project in Liberty, as I recall, that was like not even, we didn't even have an inkling that we would be able to do something like that when we started this bond process. When we came in and we said, guys, tell us what we can do here to produce something modern and modern for our students, and they just did, and it's going to be great. Another thing, for me, a really important part of providing a modern education for every student has been the work we have done improving our libraries. Before we started with this, we went to Glencoe High School, and the library, it's like it was in the attic at the back of the school. And now you go to Glencoe, and the library is right there, right near the entrance. The same thing with Evergreen, just a vast, you go in the school, you look ahead, and right in front of you is the library. And libraries are so much more today. There's so much more than just a depository of books. There are a place where all kinds of media come together that communicate to students, kids, this is the sum of human knowledge. And if you want it, you just have to walk through the doors, and there it is.
Adam, just out of curiosity, is the furniture from manufactured by the Department of Corrections, or were we able to go out and get commercial grade?
We have used some of the corrections department primarily for office furniture and I think some of the furniture we put in at Pathways.
Yeah, some like the waiting room area.
Yeah.
And stuff.
Yeah, but for the most part, the student furniture was not the corrections
Okay.
department furniture.
I didn't know we were required to go to them first.
No, this was bought off cooperative purchasing.
No.
Yeah. Student and teacher technology, we have spent millions of dollars and we will spend millions more to upgrade the technology in the classrooms, the technology, the devices for students. We're in the process right now of replacing the phone system and paging systems in all of our schools. And I'm sure Jordan will be coming forward with an update at some point on where we are with those. We're just kind of kicking off both of those projects. So those are ongoing, so they're not checked off yet. Wise use of taxpayers' dollars was another one of our bond promises. And one of the things we did pretty early on in the bond is to construct, in conjunction with the city of Hillsboro, a fiber optic ring that we used to call the dark fiber ring around the district with lots of, they call that, Jordan, or you've got lots of opportunities for
Expansion.
Anyway, we should never lose our fiber and we own it. So we're not paying Comcast or whoever the Xfinity, whoever the vendor was that we had before. So we are kind of self-sufficient, which is great now. And as we need to expand our fiber capacity, the fact that we have that in-house is a great resource and a great investment for the district. And then another promise that we made to our community was that we would try to maintain the tax rate that folks were paying when we passed the bond. At that time, folks were paying $2.24 per $100,000 in assessed value. This year, we got below $2 per thousand, so we're at $1.99 per thousand. So can't take a lot of credit for that, other than our timing was really good. The assessed values around the district have grown, both on individual homes and also as a result of a lot of the development that's been happening around the country. Yeah. And then one last note here on the wise use of taxpayers' dollars. This district has always done a great job of having property available in the areas that we needed for future expansion. So we wanted to continue that idea, and we're able to add. You'll remember we sold 10 acres of our South Hillsboro property back to the developer. We were able to turn that then around and buy a 35-acre site immediately adjacent to the 40-acre site we purchased a few years ago at the future high school site. So we now have just under 75 acres for our future high school and probably elementary school site. So if you look at the map there, the #1 area fronts Rosedale Road, so it's right across the street from the whole South Hillsboro urban growth boundary expansion area. That is a little over 10 acres and would make a good elementary site somewhere down the road that can be accessed off of Rosedale Road. The balance of that site can be accessed off of Farmington Road and would be a future high school site. So we think this is going to, whenever the district needs either a new elementary school or a new high school, it's going to be a great investment for the district.
I know we started late, but we're also way behind. I see we're on slide 9 of 27.
All right, we'll go.
So, I know.
Okay, this should go pretty quick. These are the projects that we completed in 2022. For the most part, this was done over the summer, but some of them extended. So in this building, the administration center, one of our projects was the data center. We were able to finish the fireproofing of the data center. And we have one last little bit to go there that we'll talk about shortly, but we also finished the secure entry vestibule and the all gender restroom renovation. We did the last of our new entry vestibule upgrades at the schools you see listed there. Those are primarily our newest elementary schools that didn't have an entry vestibule. And we're able to complete all those. Airfield domestic water pipe replacement. If you have ever been in the locker rooms below the stadium at Harefield, they were in truly rough shape. So we were able to go through, replace all the domestic water piping, upgrade the showers, the hot water heaters, the fixtures. It's still not the greatest locker room in town, but it's a whole lot nicer than it was before. And the water pipes are right up to speed. So Hill High, our last project in Hill High was to paint the exterior of the building. We spent a whole lot of time and money and on the interior space at Hill High, but we hadn't done the exterior. So really Hill High at this point, between all of the work we did on the interior of the building, the new paint, the new parking lots, the new sidewalks, it's the new turf field. It's a brand new campus. I'm really proud of it. Lad Acres, as I mentioned, we have been trying to upgrade the hardscape surfaces where we can. This was one that was in particularly bad shape, and we were able to replace that this last summer. McKinney was another domestic water pipe replacement project. Again, we were just having issues with the water that was coming out of the pipes there, with leaks and not meeting our lead goals. So we completely replaced that whole system. Tobias was our last parent bus drop off. And as you can see there, this is one of Jane's drone pictures. The buses and teacher parking on the left side there that come off of, I can't remember the name of the street. Anyway, they come off of basically the left side, 209, which is the street, the top side up there.
Johnson?
No, that's it. Anyway, the bottom line is we have buses on this side and parents on that side, and they don't run into each other. So transportation, this is the Walnut Street transportation, the old transportation building. Had a bunch of work done this last summer, upgraded the electrical service, HVAC, EDC, lighting upgrades. We replaced the hydraulic lifts there, new windows for the dispatch office, a whole lot of other stuff. So they were not left behind with all of the work done. Witch Hazel, we recoated the gym roof. Beautiful. Yeah. And this summer, we also did a whole lot of fencing around the perimeter of lots of our schools that haven't had that work done yet. So I'm sure there'll be a few more of these fencing projects that we'll need to accomplish, but for the most part, our schools now have secure perimeters. So window replacements we discussed earlier at North Plains West Union Corona. We now have insulated windows in all those spots. We also had a little extra work to do at North Plains because of the stucco that needed to be replaced there. But yes, much more efficient. And then we did some emergency lighting upgrades at 12 of our schools. Blueberry Elementary School, we put in the secure entry vestibule there. We didn't have HVAC unit inside the vestibule that needed to be done. We replaced the HVAC unit at North Plains. And we've completed the security window film at all of our schools now. Then we have a couple projects that we're still underway. The big one is Tamarack Elementary School. We have a substantial completion date there of June 30th. We will be having our grand opening sometime the first part of August. That will also be kind of a farewell tour for the bond as a whole. It's our last project, and so we're really excited about that one. And then the Liberty High School Solar Array Canopy. This is immediately adjacent to the new Sustainable Agriculture building that was built out there a couple of years ago, and it will house the solar array. The whole solar project, we're required to spend 1.5% of eligible construction costs on some kind of a green energy technology. And rather than doing a little bit at a whole lot of places, we decided to focus on solar at Tamarack Elementary School, and then this solar project that we feel is going to be a great asset, both in terms of energy, but also it's going to be a great learning opportunity for the kids that are in that. We still have the UPS for the data center downstairs, and I think that's scheduled to go in over spring break. Is that right? Yeah. There was just a long lead time on that thing. We are replacing the softball dugouts at Century and Liberty. I think those will be ready for the start of the season. Is that right, Casey? Yeah. Yeah. We have a little bit more perimeter fencing, as you can see at facilities for transportation. The new electrical service at the transportation building, again, was a very long lead item. That's scheduled to go in over spring break. The technology, the phone system paging and classroom technology will be ongoing here for the next few years. Jordan, I'm sure, will be giving an update on when those things are going to be happening. And then we still have a street light that we have to put it in at Tobias out on 209. And we're just waiting on the light itself. All right. Picked it up a little bit at the end there.
Questions, comments?
I would just say that we'll be back one last time in the fall to do a wrap up of the whole bond and give a complete report to the board. But as you can see, we're kind of winding her down here. So
I think we've said it before that rarely do you see this kind of foresight and reporting, and we deeply appreciate it. There's not enough words that go into all of this, the vision that goes to fight, you're pushing. There are very few districts that have land to grow in. I think that it's just, sometimes you just have to say thank you. And thank you for everything.
it's been a great cooperative team effort by a whole lot of folks.
I would just add that a big part of that is the way that this district has been able to project what we're doing online. The website, James, again, there's a lot of work into. It's amazing. I mean, virtually any parent in the Hillsboro School District is a member of the Bond Oversight Committee, because they can go in and they can look at all of the information that we look at every month or every quarter whenever we get together. So it's all there for anybody to see where the money went, what we did with it, what it cost, what the taxes are going to be, all of them.
Yes.
No, I'd just like to remind the board that when we approved our financial report for 21-22, we also had a secondary on top of our regular audit bond funds. We had a third party, Moss Adams, review the report on the spending. And I know that that's the nerdy side of it and the technical piece of it, but I just couldn't be more thankful for Adam and his team and how they handle these funds. It's been very critical for us. I want to remind everybody that that's an additional component of transparency that we have.
Other questions? So yeah, Eric is not here yet, but yeah, that it's sort of the story of my service a little bit like that. This was something we talked about during the campaign when Eric and I were working on, promising the people we were going to work to pass this bond. So it's kind of nice to be able to see it through our entire, one of the campaign issues was, yes, I will support the bond. We worked hard and it passed 2-1 when it passed. And the community decisively supported us. And, it was clear, everybody thought that we needed to do this. Major kudos to Michelle and Adam for putting the district in a financial situation where we asked the community for $408 million, and we get 5 something, because our bonds were at such a premium that investors wanted to buy them, that they were willing to pay more than what the asking price was. So we got bond for, we asked the community for $408 million. We were able to spend $500 and something million because the two of you, the district in general, had put us in a financial position to where our bonds were a desired amount. So that's amazing that, we were able to do that. And I guess my last comment is, we've seen all the green check boxes, and we know that the other check boxes are coming. It feels a little sad that you have to say we did what we said we were going to do and then more. I know that not every community in our region can say that we passed the bond and we were able to do everything we said we were going to do. So I'm a little sad that we have to declare that as an accomplishment, but we do. So we said we were going to do these things. We had a priority list, and then we had all the wish list items, and it seems like we had a lot of wish list items too because of the bond premium. So thank y'all, and thanks Matt for all your time going all the way back to, I remember those my first couple board meetings, look at the priority list and what we're going to ask for 410 or 480 or Any other questions? Thank you. Yes, thank you. Thank you. All right. Our consultant is here. Our next item should be a calendar discussion. Do we want to get the calendar discussion out of the way and then spend the rest of our time? The bulk of our time today is going to be spent discussing our superintendent search with our consulting firm that we chose last time. Do you want what's the appetite of the board? Do you want to get the calendar discussion out of the way?
I recommend we have the calendar discussion and get that out of the way. Hopefully, Hannah has a great idea for us, and we can just yes.
You got a long commute home tonight? We keep you a little bit later than you expected. Is that all right?
I have a driver, so I'm good.
All right. Perfect.
My wife.
All right.
Thank you. Well, I'm here to share the survey results and the input that we gathered from our community, staff and families. And so to the next slide. We were able to go ahead and garner over 1,600 community and family survey inputs, and then over 950 staff. And then we were able to also access specific comments from our families and staff. And you can see there, in terms of their choice, winter breaks and fall conferences were one that they wanted to keep intact. And that was something that we kind of had heard from. And so that was put there in the survey. They had to choose an order of what was their first preference to their last. And you can see that starting before Labor Day and ending earlier in June was at the end of that. But I have some more information in regards to that. So we'll go ahead and go to the next slide. Before we transition to this, I also want to point out that I want to thank Jordan for helping me with this, that there were 7 of the 759 comments from the community were written in Spanish. So we did have a large number of Spanish responses and comments for that. So for our families, the primary reason they wanted to have a post Labor Day start had to do with family vacations and weather at that time of the year. And then if you go down to the bottom, there, you can see that, the numbers of 54%, 27% were the indications of where they marked, those, choices in fourth or fifth or first or second. And, if you go to the staff page, which is next, you're going to see a similar pattern listed there, the family vacations and weather at the top. And then that range of just an average of over 50%, if you look at the families and staff responses, marking after Labor Day, and 25% average between the two scores for families and staff, indicating a pre-Labor Day start as their first and second choice. So it wasn't like the percentage was 80% and 10%. There is kind of some wiggle room in there. We did get some feedback that people wanted a little more information. And we try to keep this survey as simple as possible. Anytime you write a survey, you can always, refine things. And so if we do make choices to move towards a pre-Labor Day start, we really need to have some really clear talking points. And I think we're with my colleague Beth on that, if we were to make that distinction. And so if you go ahead and go to the next slide, this was the overall results for both our community families and staff. And you can see that again, winter break and fall conferences were received the highest ratings in terms of their preferences there. And I think something to consider is when I look at this too, I always like to dig into data a little bit more. And I think we have a preference from our staff as number 3, staff development is a core value, and instructional time from our community as a value that they want us to invest in. And so as I think about this coming year, it would be your determination, but go ahead to the next slide. My recommendation would be to present a calendar draft for the end of January to have a post-Labor Day start for this year. But something to consider is that more districts are looking at adopting a 2-year cycle of calendar, and they're presenting calendars in November and then voting on that decision in December. So families and staff can plan accordingly. And there are more of our Washington County metro area districts that are moving towards a pre-Labor Day start. And so I think we just need to start thinking about that. And part of that reason is I also pulled into some data about the makeup of our licensed staff. And we have 10% of our current licensed staff that are on a restricted emergency or conditional license. So you think about coming into that work, you haven't been in a pre-service program, but you've been working in a school as an instructional assistant. Then the next step is that you get hired because you're awesome. And you're now teaching and going to school at the same time. And you haven't been afforded the professional development that maybe some of your other colleagues have. And so I think about retention. The decisions that we make now are going to have a long-term effect on our retention for our staff in the long run. And so I would like to have us consider, if we create a pre-Labor Day start, it creates a little more room within the calendar for us to have full professional development days that people don't have to plan for with a sub and writing up lesson plans. They can be really focused on that work at hand around professional development as it relates to them. And it's timely in that manner. And then I think just moving towards a direction potentially next November to look at a 2-year cycle adoption that would have a pre-Labor Day start would be my recommendations. And so I just wanted to see if there were any other considerations or any other questions that anyone may have regarding this. Yes.
Great job, thank you. So I'm hearing kind of 2 different things. A lot of districts are moving toward a pre-Labor Day start. We are leaning toward doing a post-Labor Day start this year, but maybe an earlier adoption, like for the following year or something. Is that like the takeaway?
Yes, that was the takeaway, and then bringing 2 years of the calendar forward again for adoption for November of 2020.
Got it. I really like the idea of adopting for 2 years. Just because it takes away the stigma and the fear that we have to come back and do this again every year, and it's really not necessary. We have enough of a calendar. We could actually do this for 4 years in advance if we really wanted to, but we simply don't because we're not comfortable with that. we could do this. So a 2-year calendar is a good idea. I do want to say that I am a little bit confused as to, or not confused. I think what you're telling us is if we give the teachers what they want and deserve, more professional development days, then we have to start before the holiday.
Yeah.
And that sucks.
Well, and I think that's the challenge, Nancy, is that,
Yeah.
we can't, there are people also that want us to start post Labor Day and end
Yeah.
earlier in June. And
Yeah.
we have a contract that requires 191 days
Yeah.
to serve the needs of our licensed staff, and we have to keep that in mind. And then if we can create a calendar that has a little more wiggle room, then we can work with our OSP colleagues and think about what are the best dates for that and what that might look like.
So how much earlier?
How much earlier would we be starting
Yes.
in the 24, 25, 25, 26 school years? Is that what you're talking about? We would recommend a pre-Labor Day start, which would be just maybe 1 week before. So we just slide everything up 1 week and then we would.
Just
and-
1 week.
Yeah.
So it's still the last week of August.
Yeah, the last week of August,
When students would come.
when students would come.
Generally, teachers are like a week or two before, so
Right.
teachers a week.
And I know Beaverton just adopted their calendar, a 2-year cycle that has a pre-Labor Day start. And they would be similar. They would be starting kind of like our colleagues in Portland Public.
We get, sorry, good, everyone, monopolist questions.
No, go ahead.
We get like pushback, about shortening that one summer, like for long-term staff. I feel like there's probably grumpiness there, maybe a little bit.
Well, I think it's
I'm
hard.
asking for a friend.
Asking for a friend, sharing with a friend. I think the piece that if we think about doing this and pushing that down the road, then people can plan more accordingly.
Right.
I think people have started planning some of their vacations already and things like that. And so if we do that this year, it will be much more of a shock to them. But if they know that that's something that you're thinking about and moving that forward, then they can plan accordingly and we can start to build capacity around that understanding.
I would say that, yes, we did get some pushback on that. And I think when and if we decide to do this and we decide to have a pre-Labor Day start, that is going to be an issue that we're going to hear about. Our Teachers Association really isn't there right now in terms of feeling like this is the right time for this move because of the difficulty of just the last couple of years have been pretty difficult, and to shorten the summer in there, that's definitely going to be an issue. And I think if we see other districts start to do this, and as we have a conversation to do more onboarding for this concept, we just wouldn't have the same pushback, I believe. So it also doesn't feel prudent to try and move something like this forward at a time where you don't have wide support.
So let's make sure we're all level setting for the 2023-2024 school year. We will start after Labor Day. Oh, is that correct?
That's my current recommendation based on the input and then.
And then in the second year, if we can adopt 2 years, that 2025, then we would start the week before. And so we would be telling people right now, this is this year, and then it's going to change for next year. And then the beautiful Beth can then give us all the communications, and then they know.
Yeah.
That sounds like a win-win.
Well, and we'll, at our next board meeting, we'll bring back a couple different versions of calendars for the board to consider. So you'll have a chance to look at it, and then we'll make our decision if that's the direction you want to go.
Yeah, so we're only gonna adopt 1 year this next time, right? The calendar, but if you give us a preview of
Yeah.
what a pre-Labor Day start for the 24-25 school year would look like, maybe we introduce that in the public record, we talk about it and whatnot, and maybe we don't adopt it. But we would get a good sense of what that would look like. Should we go to it?
Yes.
Unless there's an appetite for trying to adopt a 2-year calendar this time.
Well, that's what I'm advocating, that we do a 2-year calendar. And that we tell people upfront, this is where we're going, because if we adopt that calendar, then they know that's that advance notice, right? And clearly now, this year is not the year to do that, but the following year would be.
For districts that adopt a 2-year calendar, do they revisit it each year or do they only revisit it every 2 years?
I don't know exactly, but I imagine that they would revisit it, especially if they have to add inclement weather days in or anything like that. I did look at, as an example, I think it was Westland and Russellville, and they just readjusted their calendar in July. So changes that they were making. So I think that's the discretion of the board to make that determination if there's a need to adjust things.
So going to a 2-year cycle still gives us the opportunity to maybe make adjustments for that. So every year we would look at a 2-year rolling, whatever.
Yeah, for the most part, you probably will be, putting forth an adoption and having the review and then determining, then adopting it. Then if there was a need, you would have the discretion to make that decision. But really, hopefully moving that forward with that 2-year cycle allows you to kind of let that 2-year cycle keep moving forward.
Yeah, even if it ends up changing somewhat, we at least let our community know this is what our plans are for give them long-term planning, right?
One major, oh, sorry, good.
Yeah, I really appreciate having input from our community first and foremost, and also from our staff. So this was great to even this, simple format was nice to have. I think that when we're making these decisions, I would like to have even more of that where possible, in the sense of going back and in future months and years, asking community members, the board is considering making this change for these reasons, and then asking them, does this make sense to you, or some variant of that. But I think the information here is good, and I'd like to see even more when they're presented with the reasons and the rationale, whether that is something the community becomes more supportive of.
Lisa?
I was just gonna go there. It might make sense to align the 2-year calendar cycle with the budget triennium, so we have an idea of like what funding looks like in terms of instructional days. And so it might not be this year that the best way to do 2 years, but because isn't it in the summer-ish when they will get everything together in Salem? All right. So maybe good idea.
That budget is going to change.
Right, but they will budget for 2 years. We'll have an idea of what our breakdown will be. And so we'll know what to we can put that instruction by what, but there have been years we've had to do that.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay.
Yeah.
That is, I get it, because the new biennium is June 30th, right? Yes, the new biennium is starts 7/1 of this year, 2023.
Even in the budget stuff, we're not talking about more student contact days, more contract days. We're talking about spreading them out a little bit more towards the year by starting.
I'm just saying, we've never done 2-year calendars. We usually we know what the money looks like before we say this is our calendar with all the dates. And maybe I'm not hearing that people think that's a great idea, so maybe it's not a great idea. That's fine. Okay.
I think what I would sort of hope, but I guess what I would sort of be in favor of is maybe adopting 1-year calendar this year. But when we do that, let's be looking at the 2-year window and be planning to maybe move to that. So in fall 2023, like 6 months from now or whatever, 7 months from now, Beaverton and PBS are both starting before Labor Day.
That's correct.
And if we go that route, it would allow us to have a look back opportunity and see what the impact has been. I think at some point, as districts do this, the more districts that do this, we've talked about this before, we've got people that work in our district but live in another district, and that's, we share a lot of people in there. Yeah, exactly. Well, we're gonna have openings, please. Should say.
March 18th.
But I think to your point, though, Mike, what that means is that there's some pressure. If Beaverton does it, we're stuck. If Beaverton does it, that's we're just stuck together at what you're doing.
I think there's going to be a trend to get on the same page, and whether it is tried this year and they decide, oh, that didn't work out like we thought it might, or it worked out really well. I think there will be some pressure for regionally to get close.
I agree.
Yeah. And it's just a staffing reality. So yeah, I think there will be.
Yeah, I'm happy to bring back, a draft that we can look at. It's a post Labor Day start that we would then bring forward, because it usually at the end of January is when I bring the calendar forward for the review. And then I can bring drafts in the work session of 24, 25, 25, 26 that have a pre-Labor Day start. So you can see what that looks like, that it's just a draft that we're putting together.
I've lived in probably 8 school districts over the course of my life, and that's just the only one I've ever lived in where we started after Labor Day. For what's worth. So it feels more normal to me to start before Labor Day. Other questions on, does this seem like a good plan? We'll try to adopt 1 year this year, but then be looking forward if you sort of get a sense of where we end, if our neighbors have things we can learn from this first year, that's great.
I just don't want us to not do it because we've never done it before.
Yeah,
Clearly, there's, anyway, I think we get it. If we do 1 year and entertain the thought of a 2 years, I like that.
yeah. I don't know if the 2 years is as much upheaval as we're trying to Labor Day. Right, so, but the longest look ahead we can give people for such a dramatic change in our state, is probably good. Sorry.
It's just my fault, but is there a reason why people want to move before Labor Day? Because my only thing would be, in Oregon, a majority of Oregon students go to Oregon colleges, and Oregon colleges already start later than high schools. And I know with my family, because we're split, there's one sibling, me, in high school, my brother's in college, and so that does kind of play a role in like, if the reason is starting after Labor Day for family vacations or weather or something like that, I feel like pushing it even earlier so that contrast between families would get pushed back more.
I think what you brought up is like the personal, local, and immediate from your situation.
Yeah.
And then, if you take all those dots of personal, local, and immediate, and then you're trying to look at what are the needs of like all of the district and the school in terms of professional development for staff, that's the piece that I'm really trying to.
Well, is there like a reason that families were vocalizing moving before Labor Day?
Some of them had to do with alignment of having a child in another district, and just having different schedules and things like that. So
Or they had to work.
Yeah.
When you bring this draft,
Changes here.
when you bring back the draft calendar, you make it clear what the professional development days would look like in both the pre and post Labor Day scenarios. So I'm not sure I've completely wrapped my head around why the pre-Labor Day is better than for that than because we have the same number of contract days.
I think that the pre-Labor Day part allows for flexibility in how you create the weeks in the calendar, and then you're also balancing like semester and federal holidays, our winter break being a contiguous 2 weeks. So I think what we look at is when we're building that calendar, if you can start before Labor Day, you've got flexibility in thinking how you establish the school days as well as our professional development days, so that you're not creating a bunch of 4-day weeks potentially. I think that's why people appreciate how we've done our conferences, moving them to Thanksgiving break, because it creates just, I think you've heard the phrase New School November. And I actually feel like if you looked at our November calendar, while we do have the week off at Thanksgiving, we were focused on conference time, which we were able to do virtually with families that were going on vacations and those sorts of things. And then we also just had the the Veterans Day holiday. So we didn't have that breakup of weeks where you're like 1 day off, and you have Thanksgiving, right? So when we start a little sooner, we can really be mindful and planful of those days off and really create contiguous weeks with breaks as where they need to appropriately fall, as well as balance our semesters for the high school. So I think that's how it doesn't change the contract days. You're exactly correct. We still owe our teachers 191 days. That doesn't shift in any way, shape, or form. So I think that's how I look at it in terms of just creating contiguous weeks and then clarity in the calendar. So by doing a little pre-Labor Day, it again gives you a little bit of more buffer to look at that.
Yeah, and to piggyback on that idea also is that when you allow also instructional time to happen sooner, like a week sooner for kids, then when they go like into their AP testing in May, they've had an additional week So our folks that are living in Beaverton School District in Portland, they're starting a week earlier. So when they come in to take their assessments, they have, 5 more days of instruction under their belt compared to our students, because we're starting at a post Labor Day.
AP testing is always the first 2 weeks of May. It never changes.
The instruction time, that makes a lot of sense to me, but especially, well, probably doesn't quite fit together.
Does that make sense? A little bit.
Yeah, I think when you see the draft, hopefully that will help after to see that. I totally understand. It's like, what is it? It's on here.
Thank you.
And with this year, with as we struggled to maintain the 2 contiguous weeks in winter, we had to add the extra day.
Yeah.
We did do something before Labor Day with teachers, maybe that we hadn't done before. Didn't this year we start something a little bit earlier because we had that extra day?
Yeah, we added family connections on
Right.
Earlier, and we would probably continue on with family connections, but we would just start it, in a little bit different spot, a little bit earlier than that first day, because it's not a day where students have to report to school, but we count that as in time that we've made connections with them.
But this year we did sort of breach the post Labor Day seal.
Yeah.
A little bit.
Yeah, and I think part of it is as that date moves across the calendar, that makes an impact as well.
Yeah, when it's September 6th as opposed to September 1st.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
I know we're way over time. I have one more quick question.
Sure.
Is in our contract with our staff, is there any limitation on that in the contract as far as what days we start, or are we entirely free to require a start in the beginning of August if we wanted to? Not that we ever would.
Yeah, there isn't defining dates on there, but we really want to, we believe in developing those relationships and in having them understand so that they can be on board with it, so that we can, work together on that. So I think if we're making a big change like this in terms of our past practice, we want to have those conversations in regards to what that is like. And that's what Mike was referring to, is that, at this time we are receiving a little pushback on that, and in terms of what it would look like if we were to adopt that for the 23-24 school year.
No, there's never any question of doing anything without consulting and involving our staff. I was just curious if that was something they had bargained for, but it's not. Thank you.
All right, Tom. Thank you. I know this has been a big issue for you for quite a while, so thanks for helping us get towards conclusion, at least for 1 year.
Yes,
At least soon.
absolutely. Thank you.
All right, if there's nothing else, we'll move on to our next item. And remember, you chose to work with us. You like campaign. That's what it's like working with you. You were hopeful to have that opportunity, and now here we are. So our next item is to review the superintendent search plan. Doug does need to set up some stuff. So we'll do a quick 5-minute bio break, recess, and then come back after all pull up. So we are in recess. Didn't say it. Didn't say recording back. We are back. So we recess. How do you unrecess? There a word? We're back in session. All right, our next agenda item is to discuss the superintendent search plan with our new consultant. Welcome, Doug.
Well, I'm very pleased to be here, and thank you very much on behalf of McPherson Jacobson for selecting us. We're excited to be able to work with you. Last time we were here, there were 4 of us, and you have 1 tonight. The other 3 are elsewhere. As you know, Maureen explained, she's in the city council woman in Tiger, and has a council meeting tonight. Steve Louder, our lead consultant, is in California working with another school board member, and Gus is working with one of his schools in Beaverton. So you get me tonight. So, but we're all excited to work with you. We've been having some conversations about how the direction we're going to go. And tonight is really the beginning of the process for us working with you. We have an agenda for things we want to accomplish tonight. And first thing, just to start talking about, what is it you expect out of the search? What do you want to see happen? This is your search. We're working with you and for you. But we really want to make sure we meet your expectations. We had Mark was in Chicago. We had a chance to chat a little bit about that. with Steve, Rose, Mike, and Mark and myself, but rest of the board, what are some other things that you want to see happen and what you expect from this church? And I know you're not bashful, so you'll jump right in. Mark, do you want to start?
So one of the things that we want to do is sort of establish our selection criteria. So turning the agenda over to McPherson, essentially, there's a page in your packet for that. So expectations for the search, establish calendar, advertising venue, we don't have to go out a lot of input on that. Forming our stakeholder groups, establishing selection criteria, discussing the compensation, and additional information to questions. I'm happy. So as Doug mentioned, we had a conversation to set this all up. So I'm happy to sort of take direction from y'all on how you want to proceed. Just want to make sure we hit all of these things at some point. Start from the top, like you said. Basically, everybody want to take an opportunity to sort of share your expectations for the search with Doug. So I mean, and that could be anything. You know, I expect it to be done by April, right? Something like that.
Okay. Yeah. We'll talk about the dates in a bit. This is other expectations.
This is work session. This is discussion time. That Doug works for us, and we need to tell him what we want him to do.
So Lisa goes perfect. I'll go second.
We'll start. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Hi, Doug. Here are my expectations for the search. We find a superintendent who is able to live in the shadow that Mike has cast. Okay. Because unfortunately that's going to happen. So I expect that we'll have a number of very qualified candidates who are passionate about the Hillsboro School District, who understand education in Oregon, and who have equity as one of their primary things of focus, who have a demonstrated area of success, especially handling things that perhaps might be considered controversial. That's something that has been an area where Mike has shined and his team has shined. Someone who has the personality to mesh well with the excellent cabinet that Mike has built. That's really important. A lot of the cabinet members are very long-term serving folks, and we want them to stay when Mike leaves. The end.
I think I got it all.
So Doug, I think a lot of this is intersecting with established selecting criteria. So we're kind of meshing those two topics.
Yeah. Well, if you think about what Lisa just said, a good part of that, quite frankly, for me as a newer board member is I need to make sure that the person that comes into this job is determined to be here for the long haul. I know that we can't require them. I know that, but I am fully aware of the shadow that he's casting. It's a bright one and it's a good one. I think that anybody that would want this job would want to be in a position where the person before them has been there for 15 years. That means a lot. I also want I want that person to be dedicated to the community, whether they're from this community or not. I want to make sure that we cast no dispersion on someone who's not from here. I myself am an implant, but that does not negate my love for this community and my desire to serve the children that attend our district.
It is true. I know this is going to morph right into qualities.
Right.
But that's okay.
Feels like this, yeah, we're a little bit into the established.
That's my fault. I started. I'm so
Yeah.
sorry.
We're a little bit into the established selection criteria. I would say, so one of the things we discussed is my expectations of the search. About how many overall applicants do you expect we will see?
We're thinking in that 15 to 20 range.
Okay, so one of my expectations of the search would be that you guys make some level of first cut and present us with 8 or so names. And what the board will have to determine, we'll see all of the applicants. We'll understand why they made the cut where they did. And one of the things I think we will have to determine with the help of the consultant is how many we wish to speak to individually. So if we get from 25 to 8, be thinking about, do we want to speak individually with all 8? Maybe that's a 5-minute Zoom session just to get a sense of it. We would have to probably, if all of us are together in the same room or Zoom, has to be declared as a public meeting. probably an executive session because their names would be confidential at that point. So one of my expectations is that, we would be as open as transparent as we can possibly be, but also respect the confidentiality of our applicants until we're down to 1 or 2 or 3 finalists.
So
That's
let
an
me back
expectation.
up and I'll step away from the qualities of the candidate and go back to your question. I expect that we would see up to no more than 10. We should not see more than 10. I expect, Doug, and I'm gonna say this, that you guys really execute on an open mind as to the candidates that you're screening and how you screen them. All screening should be done on an equitable level. I expect you to understand who you're representing. We are a minority, majority school district. Said that. Got it.
So I guess that, I would expect at some point we're down to 1, 2, maybe 3. Well, at least 2, maybe 3. I would expect that we would have in-person FaceTime with that person. We would allow for their significant other to travel on our dime to Hillsboro to get a sense of the community. I would expect that the search firm would have activities, maybe with a real estate agent or something with that significant other while we're in the interview process. I would expect that in that final day, in the final interview, they would interview with the groups that we suggest, administrative teams, building leaders, the stakeholder groups we discuss, and then probably finish their day with us.
It's a very exciting thing to be a part of. It doesn't happen very often. Or in this district, we've been fortunate for not to happen very often. But I think I would like to see 2 things. It might seem a little bit contradictory, but I don't think they really are. In that, I want to be very community focused and getting input from the community, because as board members, that I personally, especially, feel very strongly about being a trustee to the community. So I'd like to know how the community feels about what's important. But at the same time, when I say it might seem a little contradictory, I don't want us to be overly elaborate. I think sometimes in public bodies, if we're not careful, there can be a tendency to do things that are duplicative or that are sort of just for checking boxes to say we did all these different things. But I want to make sure we're tightly focused on getting as much community input as we can in a way that's efficient and respect people's time and energy. So those process-wise, those would be beautiful.
I think for me, 2 things come to mind. One is an overarching theme. We are looking to you and your firm as really the advisors in this process, and having been a firm that has conducted these type of services. I would expect that you would help us see some of the blind spots throughout the process that maybe are not thinking of, or forgetting too much of the perspective of our direction. For you and your team to be able to highlight what those blind spots might be, especially thinking about the longevity of this process and the person that we're bringing on. So, that would be one. And then really the second piece around the recruitment effort. I do like the idea of, you doing the first cut of, some of the candidates, but still having us have access to all of those candidates who were. But I would expect that the recruitment process, or the selection process of how that happens, really embodies the values of what our community stands for and what our district stands for. And of course, those, you can elaborate a little bit more on what kind of qualities and values you want to see in the candidate. But I would expect that the recruitment process is broad and robust and really centers our district values.
I think everyone has covered it pretty well. I think the communication perspective is very important, that we communicate, we're all on the same page for understanding where we are in the process, where the candidates are in the process. And the transparency, as was already mentioned, as much as we can do, we need to do.
I would love to get the board's opinion on this sort of idea. So as we were preparing for this meeting, one of the issues we discussed was in one of the drafts, the draft calendars in your thing. So I'm previewing the draft calendar a little bit, but we'll discuss that specifically. One of the things we discussed was at some point, there was an intent for them to make their first cut, bring 8, 10 towards us, and we would select our finalists that day. That felt a little dramatic to me. And that, maybe if we cut to 8, it stretches our timeline a little bit, but it still keeps us on track to finishing the last meeting in April. It means we have a lot. I mean, everything we decide to do means more work for us between now and the selection date. Extra meetings, which we're going to discuss, extra outside of meeting time. But it felt a little dramatic to me to go from 8, for them to go from 25 to 8, and for us to go to 2 the first second we see these people. So my suggestion was maybe 5-minute Zooms with the 8, and then another executive session where we go from 8 to 2 or maybe 3. So I would love to take your temperature on whether or not I'm reading our situation correctly, or
Mark,
you feel like.
why don't we go into the calendar, because that's what the calendar is.
Do we have the ability for here to throw it up, or?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Oh, she's looking for it.
Outstanding.
Okay, and I think you all have it in your folders, is that right?
We do. We all have it in our, yes.
So we'll come back, tonight we're really kicking off, the search process. We'll go through and check off all these points, as we go through the meeting. Number 1. Number 2, we'll go over where to advertise. This is where we typically advertise. We'll come back to
Can you
that.
zoom in there, Kira? Is that possible?
Maybe.
At your next board meeting, we would approve basically this calendar, which is the procedure.
Actually, we're doing that today. So we generally don't take, we have a lot of non-absolutes that we sort of, traditionally we do this, traditionally we don't take a lot of action in work sessions, but we are planning to approve and adopt this calendar today. That is the one action item that is on our agenda for today's work session.
But we will not have basically the qualities and characteristics completed tonight. That will come back on the 24th.
Right.
And your legal counsel will say you need to do that, so you can go into executive session to talk about this process. Then moving on to page 2, and I'll just hit it real quick. Then we would go into our educational partner or stakeholder meetings, and we would also then start an online survey for people who cannot or are not a part of the stakeholder educational focus group. We've done that for about a week, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. We plan to close the applications on February 27th, and at the end of February. You have a board, which is the Monday before your second board meeting in February. At that time, we give you an update of what the field looks like. We go over the stakeholder input report. We'll have an extensive report for all of you. We'll start talking about the interview, and we'll try to make sure we have a little bit more closure on the compensation package.
Doug, may I ask, you said you wanted it to close at the end of February, but I didn't see when you would actually open it.
January 23rd.
When we
Oh, advertise it, okay, thank
Yeah,
you.
that's when we open it.
Thank you.
And we may want to wait till the 25th, just because that will be after you have approved the qualities and characteristics. So, otherwise, it's
Yeah, the 24th is our next.
24.
there's 24th is your meeting.
Okay, agreed.
We'll come back on the 21st. At that time, what we like to do at that time is bring a complete package of 8-ish candidates. Each one of those people will have also done 3-minute online interviews, answering the same 3 questions. Introduce themselves, what's their leadership style, what would they do in the first 90 days. So we will have that along with all the paperwork, all our vetting of them. And then you will select, as Mark suggested, March 23rd. As Mark suggested.
We have one board meeting scheduled in May.
We'll decide kind of what we would call round 1. And those would be a virtual interview sometime that week, the first week right after spring break. We have to work around spring break. So it'd be the week of April 3rd. Scheduling a special board meeting in executive session. And how we would have figured out on, at that, March 21st meeting, what kind of questions you want to ask initially, what kind of, what you want to find out at that point in time. After those virtual interviews, you would then select your top. We like to keep it to 3. You may have seen one person there and said, we only want to see one person. But you just never know. Each search takes on a life of its own. But let's just assume that we have 3 candidates you want to bring in, and then the next week, April 10, you would have in-person visits for each one of those top candidates. We suggest 1 full day for each candidate, meeting with stakeholder groups that we've already met with, having a community forum, and meeting with all the different groups that we previously selected. And then they conclude the evening with a board interview. So you would have 3 nights potentially that week to interview, and then hopefully come to some conclusion on your top candidate. We also recommend that following your top candidate, if it's appropriate, to visit their home district to make sure what you see is what you get. But that's the process.
This feels a little different than what we discussed. So for what it's worth, I guess I expected us to, on the meeting on the 28th, you would bring us, that's the candidate update.
Mm-hmm.
You would show us all the universe of applicants, which is, let's say 25. And then show us the 8 or so, 8 to 10 that you feel like would move on to the next round.
Not on February 28th. We'll not have had a chance to completely vet all of the candidates by now. Because it closes at 27.
Sure. It doesn't. And when we were on the phone the other day, or Zoom the other day, I thought you mentioned that you were going to be making evaluations as you go. But yes, you said a lot of qualified applicants tend to apply at the very last second.
Remember what Steve said?
Yeah.
Usually the best or the bulk come in the last few days.
Right.
So we would expect over that weekend, people to be finalizing their applications and getting them in.
So from your experience, why is that?
Busy people work to deadlines. I mean, that's
Okay.
yeah. I've never been in a search where or in going through any kind of job application where you don't get good applicants right at the very right at the very end. This may be different what kind of leadership role it takes. It's just
Thank you.
Sorry, Mark.
No, sorry.
I wish it were different, but we try, as we said, we try to go really deep on each candidate, make sure we're getting the big picture.
Question?
Yeah.
So on the calendar, we have March 21st. Is that going to be in addition to our March 14th meeting?
Yes. So this is maybe where we disconnected from what we talked about on the phone. I thought we were going to do something at the March 14th meeting. Maybe some of these things on the, and it feels tight to me to do that selection for round 1 just before spring break and then do all of that after. So I guess my expectation from our conversation was that we would be doing something at the 14th meeting. Some of these things that are earmarked for the 21st, like going from 25 to 8 and whatnot. And then, so the virtual meetings, round 1 interviews virtual, if the entire board attends, those need to be public meetings or publicly listed meetings in executive session. So yeah, what can we do? So I guess maybe we won't be adopting the calendar tonight. It feels like we shouldn't waste the opportunity on the 14th. Overall,
Are you suggesting leaving the 21st? Sorry, Measure.
not all of it. I think.
Why not?
Yeah.
Why not?
If that's the day we choose which 8 of the 25 move on to the next round, I think the 21st would be the additional board meeting where we talk to the 8 in 5 minute Zoom meeting around the little space.
Instead of the 3rd?
Isn't April 3rd talk to the eighth then?
Yeah, so that would also be, an additional meeting, right? So I'm trying,
The reason we didn't choose the 14th, when you're going through all the candidates and looking at all of their videos and discussing, that's a long, intense meeting. And to put it as part of a regular board meeting may not be the most productive for you in terms of doing your other business.
Okay, that's fair.
That's fair, thank you.
That's fair.
You know,
sorry,
and I think that's why
what did you say is the long process?
Reviewing the candidates and making your selection, getting it down to the top 8. That's a long, intense meeting,
Well, you're gonna bring us who you think the top 8 should be.
right? And you're gonna want to see all the candidates.
We're gonna watch all 25 that
No,
day?
no,
The 8.
you're gonna see the
Yeah.
videos of the top 8-ish.
Okay,
And you think about that, that's about 10 minutes each. We're gonna want to review what we've learned about them. You're gonna want to look at their applications. It just takes a long time to
Sure.
go through each candidate and give each.
yes, maybe that
candidate
does feel like its own special day.
Yeah, it's its own special, that's probably the best way to put it. It's
So
its own
that-
special day.
I guess the concern I had then, and it was really, I was trying to back down from where my point of concern is really, if we get down to 2 people, 2 finalists on the 3rd, we're giving them a week's notice that they gotta get out here.
Yeah,
That,
Is
Seems
that,
cumbersome.
that's not unusual.
yeah,
Okay.
no,
I think, once they're going down this road, they know they're going to have to make themselves available.
yeah.
Is it your recommendation that, the round 2 interviews are when we would make the names public?
Yes,
And another point of clarification, round 1 interviews that are virtual, that would be potentially anywhere, that could potentially be all 8 people, is that right?
Yes.
Or if
Yep.
we wanted to narrow it down from the 8 that we reviewed on the 21st.
right. You can do 8, you can say, oh, we think only 6 really meet our criteria, you do 6.
Okay.
And then from there, you would move on to your top 2 or 3.
That
And
makes sense, yeah.
And during the round 2 interviews, that's when we would, I call it running the gauntlet. They would meet, it would be a long day for each candidate, starting with breakfast meetings and going to finishing off with an easy interview. So you also get a test of their stamina.
This is not a small job, so.
No,
Nice to have some long days.
yeah, we are going to be very busy in April. And so that week of the 10th, we have a board meeting on the 11th. Would we be thinking that the finalist interviews be on maybe the 10th and the 12th and not put any of them on our board meeting day?
I think we can make that decision as we get a little closer to it. You may only have 2, or you may have 3, so you go Monday and Wednesday, Thursday. That's not unusual to
I
split.
suppose that's why when we adopted, it says week of April 10th, there's
Yeah.
flexibility in there.
Boy,
But that's something we will have to discuss as we get closer, like how messy, how much, what do we want that week to look like for us?
And to be clear, Mark, what you're saying is that if we don't do it, as Doug has recommended, on the night of the board meeting, we would have to declare another board meeting, go into executive session to keep it confidential and then do the work. Yes?
Yeah, their names, the names of the finalists will be public because I'll be meeting with stakeholder groups all day. Yeah, before they get to us.
This is the
At the
final.
end.
This
At the
is,
very end, yeah, the week of the 10th. My sort of instinct is saying not to do one on the board meeting day because that's kind of a lot, like for one person would get our full attention for the day and the other person would get like, yeah, we gotta finish up with you and get to the board meeting. So just my instinct is sort of and maybe it's just 2 people that we end up as finalists, so it's hard to say how many we're gonna want to see in person.
I would say something to think about that is a work session meeting, right? A work session board meeting on the 10th
It is,
or excuse me, on the 10th or
and 11.
on the 11th. I mean, if we had to, we could push the items off of that so that.
And just make that.
Just make that.
Use our work session.
I like that.
I kind of like
Only
that.
intensely focused for those 2 weeks.
One of the things we had discussed, and I had sort of a concern about, and I don't know if you've been able to address that concern, was a common practice is for the board to have a meal sort of off the clock with the candidate. That felt like a violation of Oregon public meeting law to me. Like if a quorum is having dinner with a potential candidate on which you might vote, I think we're very good at when we're in the same place. A quorum of us are in the same place, not discussing issues on which we might vote. It would be impossible at a dinner table, in my opinion. But you say that many districts have already done this, so. What's
It's common practice.
They got them signature, they're family, yeah, they went bowling. Oh, it's fantastic.
Well, so much for the confidentiality.
I would say let's find out where we are, and then, as we're deciding kind of what it looks, the very tail end there on March 21st, kind of tie that in terms of what that day would look like and what the interview days would look like. I don't think we need to decide that tonight. That's something we can decide later in the process.
But I think what you're hearing from us, Doug, is our concern to make it. If we take them to dinner, it's gonna have to be a working session, and it's not here, period, right?
Yeah, you had said maybe taking to a nice restaurant or something, but yeah.
Yeah.
And I get that, how that would be valuable. And I get that other school districts don't value Oregon public meeting law maybe in the way we do, but we kind of do.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, we talked about that, and I think it's, I think we want to talk about different options as we get closer to that time.
Okay.
Because we clearly heard we will honor the Oregon public meeting law, and we always shared with us the advice from your legal counsel. So we just have to find what feels most comfortable to you.
Are we too nervous?
Pardon?
Are we too nervous? Are we a little bit ahead of ourselves?
Not necessarily. This is the most important job you have as a board, selecting your next CEO. And as Patrick said, it doesn't happen very often. And I think you all recognize how important this is. And as a result of that, you want to do it right, and you don't want to have the process questioned. And we want to make sure that the process is not questioned. So yes, I don't think you're nervous. I think you just want to make sure you're doing it correctly.
And just for my colleagues, you can rest assured that Rose and I have been in contact with our legal counsel, Spencer at OSBA, and yeah, so we are working diligently to ensure, which is why we have a motion that we need to pass today and one next week or next meeting. So the motion next time is pretty broad, but it's what allows us to actually conduct discussions in an executive session. Without that motion, we couldn't. So.
And I would suggest that the calendar you adopt is just the date and what's bolded here, not all the individual things. That's just for your planning purposes. So we all know what's going to happen, but the calendar you would adopt would be February 28th school board meeting.
So that's not a date you called out on this calendar here in this draft. So the week of the 10th, we would conduct interviews with the finalists, names are public, they spend all day with district staff, community members and us. Week of the 17th, do we need a special executive session to select that person? And then on the week of the 25th, so on the meeting on the 25th, we're prepared to vote on that person. So I guess the other thing we've discussed, and the reason why you have 2 or 3 finalists is because the person who we select is going to be highly qualified, and this may not be the only job they apply for. So we will probably have a first and second, and that's why we want to discuss that in executive session, so that in case we make an offer to the first person, then they have already accepted an offer somewhere else. I would expect all 8 of the ones that we choose would be great. But we do need to be prepared for the fact that some districts will be making this decision earlier than we are. Salem Kaiser's 2 months out of us.
Yeah, they're pretty close to closing.
But we don't care about it.
So is that, can we amend the calendar to put, vote on the 25th? Because I feel that's like what our plan is, it's not on
I think the calendar gives us the direction.
there. Okay,
And I think as we go through the process, if we see we need to adjust it, we just come back and adjust it. I mean, it's not locked in stone.
We did that on the.
well, it is locked in stone, you can change tone with the stone with the chisel.
Yeah.
Right, again, but we are making a motion, we would need to make a motion and amend it.
When on other things, and then want to have them approve the calendar,
Yeah.
and then we, without any motion, then we make changes.
Right.
So.
One other thing on the calendar.
Something I heard you say, I just wanted to ask, did I mishear it? That your comment about the week of the third being 5-minute Zoom interviews, I'm thinking that's not correct, right? Like,
I think he said 10, but like,
you don't want to talk to these people for at least 30 minutes to an hour each
the 8,
to get
No.
down to 2? You're gonna winnow them down to 2 based on 10 minutes?
well, not based on 10 minutes, by all of the information we've had that got them to the game. Plus 10 minutes in person. Am I wrong, Doug?
I think we need to decide how long you really want it. I think everybody needs to think about that and on the 21st of
Okay.
March, when we bring forward, okay, how much time do we really want to spend with each person online?
In round 1,
Pardon?
in round 1.
In round one,
And
whether it's 10 minutes, 15 minutes, half an hour, it really kind of depends on.
That doesn't need to be decided when.
No,
right?
no.
Because what we're deciding is just.
It's just that that's the week we're doing, yeah.
That's what we'll do.
we're adding extra commitments to our time. the week of
So
April.
I think we're getting a little
Sure.
bit pigeonholed into in the agenda items for each of these meetings. But I think, what our goal, at least for right now, is to adopt at large what these dates and the weeks of these dates are, and then we can add to those agenda items and decide once we get closer.
Yeah, what we're doing today is committing to the fact that the week of April 3rd, we're all gonna have to spend a lot of extra time being a board member.
That's correct.
Yes.
and I just talking to soon that week of April 3rd is a very momentous week, so.
Oh.
Lots of birthdays in April. 3rd.
Anyway,
And Rose, I believe as long as we have them in the public record as executive session meetings, we can conduct them all virtually from our houses and not have to have everyone be here, right?
Right.
So we can, and with all of the candidates being virtual, that we don't necessarily have to gather here.
Okay.
In order to make that happen, we can do Zoom sessions from our houses, much like we did that.
So two more quick questions about the calendar. So at the meeting on the 21st, you will have conducted all of the interviews with the references and the existing employers, and you'll have that also prepared for us to review.
yes, we'll have a report on each one, and we will have the online interviews that we've conducted.
That's great. And then you said you're recommending the visit, if we choose an external candidate, that the visit to their district would be after the selection on the 17th, just sort of verify our selection.
You could, on the week of the 10th, when you're done with the 3 candidates, you could then decide that following the last candidate, you could then decide, after you've gone through the 3 interviews that week, you could decide who your number 1 is. Doesn't have to wait for you to come back and decide again the week of the 17th.
So for what it's worth, when, I guess we go Dale recently.
Oregon City.
Oregon City, when Oregon City chose Dale. When she was in her finalist stage, members of their board, and I think some community members and maybe a cabinet member came here and talked to me and Erica about her.
Okay. Now, there is one other option. It's a little more it's a little more complex. Oregon City had all their 3 finalists all together on the same day. That was their choice. They wanted to do that. And that is an option.
All 3 in the same room at the same time? or each at-
No. Like I say, a little more complex.
Yeah, not Hunger Games style.
We built a bastard schedule around so that they were only tying up their district and the board one day, which is an option if you want to do that. And that's what happened in Oregon City. And it worked. They had 3 good candidates and they only tied up their student group, their teacher group, their administrators, their community one day, and the board one day. So
I guess I forgot about that. Yeah, so we're also asking all of our stakeholder groups that are going to be involved in that final round of Hunger Games to make time that. No crystal ball, but in your experience, are we looking at 2, 3?
we like 3.
You like 3?
Yeah.
But we don't know who said that.
Yeah, you just don't know. Because we had 3 for another district that I was working with, and 1 dropped out at the very last minute, down to 2. Yeah.
So let's take this back to where Sharon took us. I'm in agreement with this schedule. I think it gives us the flexibility to do what we need to do. Even if this schedule doesn't work for us, we simply amend it. That is our right. So I would be willing to vote for this schedule as it is.
When would I like to make a motion?
What would you, Marianne?
Yeah.
All right, I'm not ready.
It is. I move that the board of directors approve the superintendent search plan and timeline as presented.
Second.
It's been moved by Nancy and seconded by Lisa that the board of directors approve the superintendent search plan and timeline as presented. Is there any further discussion on the calendar?
When we say plan and timeline, we just mean the calendar.
Yeah. Yes, search plan and yes. Rose, can you call the roll, please?
1 second, I'm just looking to make sure that it's not here.
Oh, she may join virtually.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Let's get it. Lisa Allen,
Aye.
Patrick McGuire,
Aye.
Gian Kim,
Aye.
Monique Ward, Nancy Thomas,
Aye.
Mark Watson.
Aye. Motion carries. All right, the other things you need to get done today.
Let's do real quick. You want to, we'll start advertising, January 23rd. And these are the ones we would typically ask you, this is where we typically go in terms of, advertising. We'd obviously do in Oregon, COSA. I would suggest you also do California and, Washington.
They're in the calendar draft, the sort of the place
Yeah.
that they're intended to
January
advertise in the
23rd.
calendar draft.
We'll have it on our website and all our social media, or as we said in our presentation, our website gets lots of hits. 250,000 a month, I'm told, so. AASA, top school jobs, which is Ed Week. The ALIS, which is the Latino administrators, NAPSI, which is the Black school administrators. And then if you want to do print ads, we could do Ed Week, which is a widely read publication. There are, and those would be the main ones that we would do. They all have a little bit of a cost with them. The most expensive is Top School Jobs, which is $500 for 30 days. Most of the others are a couple $100. And these are the ones we recommend, and it's probably as broad a net as we could spread in terms of this position. And of course, word of mouth is always good too.
Right. Besides everything here, which sounds comprehensive, my question is about OSDA. I just didn't know, do they help? Do they have a place? I'm just asking.
OSBA provides search services.
Oh, they provide search
They
services.
have, but they did not choose to compete for our work. I think they tend to provide search services for smaller districts. Right.
Okay, question answered, don't have.
But yeah, like, I guess that's a good question. Like, does OSBA have a jobs listing site?
Everyone looks at COSA.
Everybody looks at COSA.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and in Washington, I believe it's the school directors in Washington that allows out of state applications. And in California, it's called EdJoin, which is a kind of a run through their administrators. So
Final comment, question. Just because we're targeting the West Coast, does it mean that we would not accept an applicant that is not from the West Coast?
absolutely not. This because of getting top school jobs, Ed Week print ads, NASB and ALIS. And I would think we'd also want to do the district administration, which is another national publication. Those are national publications. And we ask our fellow consultants nationwide if they know someone that would fit our description to make sure that they please point them in our direction. Plus, our website reaches the entire nation. So we will get people from all over the nation.
So that leads me to my other question. Since you guys have been having a conversation, how are you representing us?
What do you mean by
How are you presenting us as a package to the candidate? So in other words,
Yeah, we will do a job posting. We will.
no. I mean, like, what are you saying about it? Like, are you telling them that we have this 15-year executive who's leaving us and that we're heartbroken? Are you?
That's what I want me to say that. We will put together a brochure. Rose has that form that she's putting together. We'll be working probably with Beth to really
so
present what the Hillsboro
I've got
School District looks like.
Page of questions I'm answering for them right now.
That would be there. And so, yeah, we try to give candidates a good view of what the district is like.
Okay, yeah. I trust you. It was just, we had to mention.
No, it's a good question. That's part of the process.
Just like a good opportunity for me to reinforce, this is our search. He brought it up. This is the most important job we have. And with that in mind, all of the resources we have, we should bring our resources to bear there. All of our experienced cabinet are available to help with this. Our experienced superintendent is available to help with this. So we should rely on all the resources we have. So I guess, I don't know the background of y'all, but I have no background in human resources. Kana, does this feel like the right list? Are we missing anybody?
Yeah, I think it's the right list. And I think too, like, you get to determine this process based on, what you think is needed based on the candidates that apply. And so it's a good framework.
I believe you were in HR before you got this job. Does that look like the right list to you?
Yeah, I think when you think about that list, what we do for, if you hold it down over there, Frank.
One of Al find me.
When you're looking for teachers or for other support staff, there's a mechanism that there's a go-to for that. This is just different. And so I think the list, the outreach lists that we're doing here are the common ones that are used for superintendents. And it feels like all of the elements feel great.
The only one that I would recommend is maybe OWALA. I didn't hear that name.
Oh, what's that?
That's the Oregon
Association of Latino Administrators.
I can get you that stuff there.
Oh, okay. All right. It's the Oregon.
Association of Latino Administrators.
Oh, the Oregon. Oh, okay.
So checkbox next to advertising. Checkbox next to established calendar.
Yes.
Okay.
Does anybody else the first item we started with was expectations for the search, and that's where dovetailed into our calendar discussion. Do you feel like everyone's had an opportunity to sort of express their expectations? And we can keep talking about these as we go, but if I'm looking to figure out what's up next.
Okay, the next thing is talking about stakeholder groups or educational partners. And when we had our pre-planning meeting, Mike talked about when we talk about community groups, there are cultural groups that the district already meets with. And And I believe that would be, the groups, each one of those could be a stakeholder group. Mike, you want to review those?
Yeah, we have to. So one of the things that we talked about when we had our phone conference with Mark and Doug Rhodes and I, we talked about the cabinet would brainstorm a list of groups that we would want the search consultants to meet with to gather information from. So here's the list that we came up with, and we likely forgot a list. We may have missed something. So this is just to get us started. But the culturally specific groups that we already have as go-tos for us in the district, that would include our PACs, the other specific groups that we have as well. So we want to include all of those groups. The administrative group, both our school-based folks and our district administrators, we'd want to have a conversation there. Our association leadership, both HCU and HEA, they've been long-term partners. They're heavily invested in getting the right person in. We have a number of community partners that we would want to include in this, and that would be the Hillsboro Schools Foundation, the City of Hillsboro, the Chamber, PCC, and then the student groups as well. I had the opportunity to go out and meet with each high school each year with students. And one of the things that we always do before I go out is we ask the administrative and the counseling staff at each high school to put together a representative student group that I can have a conversation with. So it's not just the leadership kids. It's not just the, fill in your name of the group kids. It's a representative sample of all of the kids that make up that student body. So we would recommend that we do the representative groups from each of the high schools as well. So those are the ones that we currently have. Did I miss any from what we talked about?
Wait, and all of those groups are gonna talk to the candidate?
No, so, if you refer back to the calendar again, that's like our easy guidepost. The week of January 30th.
Yes.
The search firm will be on site for 2 days, having discussions with our stakeholder groups about the kind of person they would like to see as the next superintendent.
Thank you.
So that's the 30th
Yes.
or the 31st and the 1st. You can see the list there, and then you'll board identify, these are the ones Mike's talking about. So they'll be on site here for 2 days, conducting meetings with the groups that we think they should be conducting meetings with.
Not to disagree with the board chair, but actually 3 days.
Oh, the second, I wasn't sure of the second, okay, so it's 3 days, right?
Because the number of groups is, we'll be all hands on deck, and we'll be trying to meet with all the groups. We asked 4 questions. What's good about the Hillsboro community? What are the good things about the Hillsboro School District? What are the issues that the new superintendent will face? And what are the qualities and characteristics you want to see in the new superintendent? We ask all of that, same thing to each group. We can file that into a report. And then we will also, it's not on the calendar, but it will be part of the stakeholder group meetings. We will open up an online survey, asking the same 4 questions, and we'll work with Beth to make sure it is completely advertised. It'll be open to anyone and everyone. And consultants kind of, when we meet with the stakeholder groups, we filter a little bit and what is said to us, but the online survey is unfiltered. The only thing we do is take out names and we take out profanity. Otherwise, you see everything. So you're going to get a lot of information from a lot of different venues and people.
Okay. So I feel really comfortable because this feels like our strategic plan. Like, I mean, they had the data and they had it feels a lot like that. So we just do it again.
And back to the calendar again, it's the 28th, where they'll review all of those inputs in the stakeholder input review report. So we'll review that report with them. So these meetings are happening very early in the process. The advertising goes out the 24th, 25th. Week of the 30th, they're doing these things. It closes the 27th. So they'll have a lot of, they're gathering information very early in the process to help them make that cut.
Do they do that with you without?
Yeah, I guess.
What's that?
Do board members attend any of these? Is it weird if we do?
Yes.
Is it an open invitation?
Our preferences are not there.
Okay.
And the reason our preference is not there you've probably been in a situation where there was a conversation going on and you as a board member walked in and all of the conversation went away. You're all good people, but you're a school board member and you're seen as that. And sometimes that has a quality effect on the conversation. You're welcome. We've done, meetings, stakeholder meetings where the board members attended. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But it's your search. And if you want to be there and be a mouse in the corner and listen, fly on the wall, yes, please do. And the other thing is we can also schedule Zoom meetings, and you could be as, that's another opportunity for you not to be kind of as prominent in your presence. So we'll work all of that out, working with Rose and Mike, getting all of these things scheduled, and you will know that schedule once we've got it done.
So we kind of separated out today, so you'd be able to figure out who the board is, and so I guess it was. Yes, I get it, yeah, we generally randomize.
Yeah.
To your right are 3 student representatives.
Yeah.
I feel like it would be okay for them to participate in the student sections if they, even though they are board members.
Oh,
I
absolutely.
feel like it would probably be okay for them to participate in student conversations, right?
Oh, absolutely. I would hope they would be.
If they wanted to.
If you want, yeah. What I'm saying is, so even if we want, we should try to resist that urge if we can, because it could color the conversation. I don't know that, I feel like it'd probably be okay for them.
Oh, absolutely. I would think it would be a very appropriate and very important for them to be a part of the process.
Because I'm gonna admit, I don't do the mouse in the corner thing where we're all set. Awesome. We want our student reps there, we'll stay out of the way.
The-
I have a question.
Yes. go ahead.
So on the 28th with the reports that we're gonna be getting in, I guess this is more a question for Mark. Really is, are we gonna get this materials standard time frame, or will we have access to this earlier because there's a lot of information?
Yeah, so the review stakeholder input report. Generally, so that's a board meeting day, right? 28th is a board meeting day.
Yes.
So just for your reference, generally, board meeting materials are given to us on the Thursday before the board meeting. What I think of paraphrase what Monique said, we would love to have as much information to review over that weekend as possible, so that we're not trying to, you don't need to sit in executive session and watch us read.
Yeah. None of this will be, I don't think any of this will. The stakeholder report is public information, so we don't, it'd be part of the public conversation. And so the candidate update in terms of how many people have applied and that sort of thing. May want to talk about whether we do the interview procedures and questions and compensation in executive session.
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
But
Which means I think you'd like to see it by the 24th of February. That's the Thursday before. If I do my calendar correct.
I'm also gonna get it as early as
Yeah.
possible. If it's gonna be
Yeah.
a large volume of information.
Yeah, I'll tell you, Grants Pass School District had an 86-page report. So, yeah, and Grants Pass is less than half the size of those. A lot of public engagement there.
Generally, when we have a lot of material to review, we get it on the Thursday before.
Yeah, so I will tell that once the survey closes, our staff will read through the entire survey responses, and then we'll review it. So 2 weeks should close on about the 9th-ish. So it gives us about 2 weeks. So that should be sufficient.
And we have a confidential area that Rose puts documents in for us. Also, their firm has a confidential area where they can put information that only board members can see. So over the course of this, I think there'll be times, maybe this is one of them, where they will put it, we will have to log in with the credentials they provide, and we will be the only ones who can see that information as board members.
The other thing we ask you to do, and this would be information to Rose and be helped with the community stakeholder groups, is for you to recommend some folks that you want to make sure are part of the stakeholder groups for input. So people you know, you believe would be valuable to be part of this conversation. So Rose gave you the form. Rose, when did you like these back by?
as soon as they have them filled out.
Okay, all right. So please get them back to Rose as soon as you can. These people may not be part of formal groups. They may be acquaintances. They may be people you know in your social circles, your professional life, your faith life, whoever it might be. These people, you know, yeah, their voice needs to be heard.
That's
So,
good.
So,
That's good.
for example, Mike in his list called out the local schools foundation. Do we need to write Aaron Carlson and Matt Brennan from the local schools foundation on our sheet? Or by him saying that it's already covered? Or their board, maybe some of their board members, like do we need to call out specific members of the HSF board on our sheet? Or are we just inviting HSF as one of our groups?
I put down anybody you want to make sure.
I can do, why don't I do all the groups that I called out, I'll just put those, the people that we typically interact with, help with that.
Okay. Okay, and then we can do our.
And you do your own, yeah.
Okay, all right.
So can you send us in with at some point? Okay.
Okay. Want to stand, let's do a stand up. Stand up.
We feel like we're good on stakeholder groups.
Yeah, he's my guy. Thank you, Doug. I appreciate this very much.
I need to stand up and move. So,
Rose, am I,
Yeah,
that's
mine.
incredible that that's gonna go on you to try to coordinate.
you all had homework.
Are we muted?
Did we?
Oh, yes, we did, because we remember what we started talking about.
Yeah,
We went there.
Yeah.
Remember, we messed up. We went there.
oh, we got the magic board out.
Quality.
Right. Some of this Lisa and Nancy touched on in the announcements, right?
Well, yes, but let me throw one that I didn't.
Sure.
Communication. You gotta be an incredible communicator.
Okay, well, let's get, wait for Zoom to be back, and then let me kind of explain what we're gonna do here. And we're gonna call on Nancy first, so she can put communications up, read the number one item.
You're gonna guide us through this? All right.
Yeah, yeah.
All official recess.
As you started on.
Now, I gave all of you the board member, the 5 post-it note, because you're gonna get to use these as you're voting. On the top characteristic.
I need more.
No, you only get 5. And I'll explain why. Because one of the things we do when we get the qualities and characteristics, those are what, when we do our reference checking, that's what we come back to. So let's say the top one is effective communicator with a variety of groups. We'll ask, what kind of a communicator is this person? Do they communicate well with students, teachers, parents? classified, certified community. And so we use that, and if it gets too long, some of it becomes meaningless. So we want to be really focused as we can. And, you know, it's an art to put this together, but if we get too much and you can have 25 items, well, pretty soon, the person who's applying for the job will start looking at that and our eyes will start to cross. And you want to be really focused and intentional on this topic, qualities and focus.
We have a board member who's unable to be here tonight, and I have her list, and it's 11.
Okay. And I'm going to guess there's going to be a lot of overlap and there's going to be a lot of commonality, but that's okay. But there might be some that one of you say, oh my gosh, I didn't think of that. Or as we're talking, I'd like to add. So it's a dynamic process. Before we get into your list, I want to ask some pretty specific things. The first thing I want to ask is, I'm going to shoot my chart after that my list is obviously you want a superintendent that's licensed or can be licensed in the state of Oregon. What does that mean? That means they can get a superintendent's certificate to do the job. And it's required in the state of Oregon.
You have to have a specific.
You have to have a certificate.
Yeah. Doug, didn't you say these are the things we want to ask their references? Shouldn't we already know that before we reference them?
This is before we get to the reference check.
Because I don't want that on us, doesn't count.
No, that will be one.
All right.
I'm just starting. These are the absolute.
Okay, all right, okay, I'm sorry.
This is it, and so that's an absolute.
Okay.
But we don't have to put a post-it on that.
Yeah, you don't have to worry about it.
So what we're saying is you either gotta have a current license or be able to get a license. Thank you.
Second thing, how much experience do you want? And at what level? You want to say minimum 5 years, leadership experience at the district level, 5 years superintendent experience. I'm asking, where's your brothers there?
Does that coincide with the size of the district that they've already superintended, if they?
Well, that's a nice segue. Let's just focus on experience. We'll come back to where the experience is. Our preference, you'd say probably for Hillsboro, a minimum of 5 years experience.
In administration?
In a district level administrative position. And that doesn't necessarily mean they're a superintendent, but they're at that.
Okay, I'll take that. A district level position, because then that means that anybody at that table over there could potentially be the next one.
If that's what you want.
Does that seem normal?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
You would anticipate, I would anticipate someone who's a deputy assistant level for a certain number of years in a large district or comparable peer district. But I think that's what I need to get into it. If it was someone from a smaller district, you would probably expect them to have been a superintendent, not that.
You took the words out of my mouth. That's exactly. I think what we're going to see are superintendents from smaller districts, as well as superintendents from similar sized districts and cabinet level folks from similar sized or larger districts.
Mm-hmm.
So does that kind of everybody agree with kind of 5 years district level leadership? Yes. It's hard to put in on a kind of an advertisement size of district, but I think that will be a consideration for you folks as we present candidates.
So it's not just district level, but district level leadership.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then do they have to have a doctorate, or is that preferred? Or
No.
Does it make any difference?
I would vote that they do not have to have a doctorate.
Do you prefer it? You can put a required, they have to have a master's degree to get their license.
Exactly.
Okay. But you prefer a doctorate or not?
What districts in Oregon that are comparable to us have superintendents with doctors? Does Gus have one? Does State Park have one?
Well,
It reminds me of something Dale once said, but I'm not gonna say that in the meeting.
Yeah. Well, I guess I'm not gonna be prepared to give you a, I know the new superintendent in Bend has his doctorate. I know, Mike may know better than
I
I.
do. I'm sitting here quietly on purpose. I think in the metro area, it's 50-50.
Yeah, does, the Portland soup, does he have his doctorate?
I don't know. Guadalupe.
Guadalupe,
Guadalupe.
Guadalupe, I don't like this.
And you do not, right?
Do not.
But, you know, some districts, that's an absolute, and that's why I asked the question. And if you don't even want it on the application, we won't put it there.
Maybe preferred, you know, they do that sometimes.
No, but here's my problem with that is if you put the D on there, how does that side of it? Do you want to require that? I think you miss out on candidates. They're gonna see that and they're gonna say, I'm not gonna bother. Bingo. What they're looking for. Yep, I don't, I would not want it on there.
Not in any way, not a preferred, nothing.
I think if they have one, they can share that with us, we can consider that.
And they will.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they will. First thing you'll see is.
So I think you're hearing us say no mention of it.
Yeah. Okay, so these will be kind of the absolutes. You don't have to vote on them, but I think it's important for you to know when it goes out, we're gonna want some, obviously the license fees, but 5 years district level administration leadership. That's a pretty darn broad way to look at it. And so anyone who might want to be interested who has this, and I don't think you'd want anything less. This would be the kind of person you would want to look at. I'm gonna look at our HR person. Would you add anything else over here?
I think it's okay to put things on there that say like preferred and required. So if there are things that you want that are important, make sure that you put required next to those, and things that are, the flow on, you can prefer.
I think we're just go required and no prefers. I mean, based on what the board said, I think goes on.
Yeah, unless you want like bilingual preferred or something like that,
Well, that might be part of the qualities and characteristics.
but not required.
Yeah. I had a position where a person, the required requirements for the job probably narrowed it down to less than 1% of the available applicants. So I have to be careful. Anyway, okay, so
I'm not super great at holding my tongue, but I'm gonna try to let my colleagues go. I'll ask y'all, how would you like me to address Erica's 11? You want them first, last, in the middle?
let me see, well, what I'd like to do is just what I'd like to do, Mark,
Let me see her list.
what I'd like to do, Mark, is just go around and everybody start with one.
Okay. Oh,
And I'd
sorry.
like you to keep,
Oh, I want prioritization.
and we'll just keep going until we get to everything, okay? All right?
So then if you were each starting with just one, maybe Erica should be first each time and then you'd be
Yeah.
last.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I like that.
Sounds good.
Okay,
Oh,
so.
I like your list too. I don't know how I want to prioritize it. The first one.
Yeah,
Read it in order.
yeah,
Okay, I'll just go on there.
yeah, and I'm gonna get some of the things that she has, somebody else will have, so it'll,
All right.
so let's start
The
there.
first thing she listed was a leader with integrity who has a history of bringing people together and building morale.
Which is also one of those very important things to doing metric. Right? How do you do things?
Right, okay, Mark, what's your first one?
Oh, start with me? Helps.
I think you're going lower. I think you're
All right, I don't know if it's different than building teams, but I think, building a great team and empowering them is very important. Like, the leader doesn't need to do all the things if they can hire the right person to do
demonstrated
those.
ability to delegate.
Yeah, yeah.
Multi-stakeholder, right now.
The ability to build a great team and empower them.
And I'm being cryptic here, so, and I'm not gonna give a full, but this means they've had a demonstrated record of building a great team and empowering. This means they have a great record of building morale. They have demonstrated integrity and bring people together. So that's how I want you to kind of think about it as we go through it. Nancy, number one, effective communicator.
Yes.
But I don't want to steal your thunder.
No. And I even went there, don't get mad at me for messing up the board with the wrong marker, because it shouldn't have been over here, but anyway. The issue.
We're gonna let everybody know, Nancy.
So when I say communication, I got specific. There's a certain, he spoiled us, right? He communicates with us, the board. He communicates with the community. He communicates with the executive staff. What we don't want is someone who feels that they don't have to communicate. Is that understood? I don't know how you want to articulate that.
Okay,
That's a good point though, like very broad communications, like, yeah.
Yes.
Okay, I'm just gonna.
And I'm gonna blame it on Mikey.
Broad. Okay, Lisa?
Okay, we'll go this way first, yeah, it's okay. So the thing is that I know we're gonna overlap, and I already saw Nancy's list, but I'm gonna say anyway, because I feel like it should be higher than number 5. Someone who has a demonstrated, dedication to equity in their leadership role. And equity means a lot of things, so we want to keep that in mind.
And so to back up what she said, that they understand it, that they live it, and they lead it.
Yeah. Good, yeah.
Say that one more time.
They understand it. You'd be surprised how many people don't. That they live it. Don't be surprised how many people don't. And that they lead it. Okay.
Yeah, student outcome oriented. I feel like it's any professional of competence is able to give a speech on in very broad strokes, but I want to know the candidate. I want them to say, how has their leadership made a difference in practical terms, real initiatives that demonstrated results? And how when we hire them, what are they going to bring in terms of their leadership bringing real results?
Same here.
So sorry, I missed the first part of it. Are we listing in order of importance?
No.
Or are we just going down our list?
Just go down your list. Go down your list, but usually you start with the one that's most important to you, so.
Okay. Well, the ones that I have are, I've already mentioned, so I'll go with this one. A leader who is a problem solver and collaborator, knowing how to deal with conflict in a manner that builds trust and brings resolution.
Problem solver. Let them say.
Collaborator. Knowing how to deal with conflict in a manner that builds trust and brings resolution.
Can't be too critical. Okay, thank you. Okay. Second sheet. I'm gonna leave it here, so, okay.
So one with a strong professional judgment, who's able in a firm and fair manner to make hard decisions.
To make, and say, and
To firm and fair manner to make hard decisions.
okay, so. Decision making. Okay, back to beginning.
Erica, lightning round for y'all. Do you feel like a superintendent who communicates clearly and precisely, a leader keeps board members informed, that's been checked, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. She's got 2 on conflict. The leader knows how to deal with conflict in a manner that builds trust and brings resolution, and a leader, strong professional judgment in a firm manner that makes hard decisions and stick with them without being drawn into the conflict.
Check.
I feel like that's checked, right?
I think I wrote that one for another district.
Oh,
Yeah.
should have taken it from the example.
Yeah.
Equity oriented and student-centered leader. That checked? Okay, so let me give you one of the hers that's not checked, I guess.
Well, okay.
A strong inspirational leader who is organized, timely, and considerate of our partners.
Strong, inspirational. And what was the last part, Martin?
Considerate of our partners.
And what's your?
I guess mine would dovetail into that a little bit then. Demonstrated an ability to be a leader in their community. And for me, that's maybe collaborative decisions with the community.
So that's collaboration with community partners. Or community, like the city, the county.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Excellent. Yeah.
Okay. Nancy, good.
I'm gonna go there. This is a hard one for me, but I want to say that I want to be open to, first of all, the subject is bilingual ability. I want that person to be open, but I do not want that as a requirement because everybody's not bilingual.
Okay.
Potentially, maybe we could decide that it's a preferred, it's a want, it's a desire. I don't know.
Erica has bilingual in Spanish as desired.
I think desired is good, but with the makeup of our community, they have to be open. They have to be ready to embrace it.
So does it have to be a Spanish speaker or could it be a different?
Oh, absolutely.
Because I'm looking at your website and there's lots of different languages.
There is.
Yeah.
And so my point is, it doesn't have to be Spanish, but the point is you gotta be open to the fact that we speak a lot of languages in this community.
Okay, but as a quality and characteristic, do you want that person to have that skill or that ability to be bilingual? Or do you prefer that? Do you desire it? Or just to be open to it? And there's kind of a distinction there.
I know. I think I like the word desire because I don't want to drop a candidate because they're not bilingual.
That's what Erica used too, and I kind of like that, like desired, not required. I think required is a little strong, but yes, like preferred, desired, whatever. For me, I like the idea of it.
I won't put it up one that you choose. I'll just put it over here along desire as one of those check the box things. Are they bilingual or not?
Bilingual in Spanish specifically, but.
Well, preferred Spanish? I'm looking at you.
We can't not ask for that. Look at the makeup of our student body. Look at our community. All I'm saying is it's not a requirement. If you don't speak Spanish, doesn't mean you can't get the job. But you do have to be open to the culture. You do have to be open to equity for that.
How's that different than the dedication to equity?
How is it different?
Yeah.
Because
I'm a candidate reading, don't know what you've done. I want to know.
No. That's a good point. I'm saying that the difference is I'm saying it's a skill.
Okay. So being open to how are you phrasing it? Open to bilingual.
I said open, meaning.
If we put bilingual Spanish desired, doesn't that cover it?
Yes.
I'm gonna put it up here.
I give up.
Well, I think the equity thing covers the other stuff.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. Yeah, you'll get a chance to vote on whether that's one of your top 5. Lisa?
I just had forgotten that we needed to pick 5 and now I'm stressed
Well,
out.
you don't have to.
No, well, but I have like 10 more on my list, so
Okay.
it's gonna be fine. All right. My next one is, I think it's important to have someone who has strong roots in the classroom, was an instructional leader, hasn't lost that desire to connect to kids.
That's a good one. And I put.
And can be like a model or a mentor when you
So we want to put as a preferred that they've been a classroom teacher?
I mean, I don't think we have to. I think if someone hasn't been a classroom teacher, I'm not gonna take them as my top anything.
But in terms.
I mean, I know they technically could be, but I'm not really.
And I'm gonna look to Mike to this and maybe to Kona, what, can you get a superintendent's license without a teacher's license in the state of Oregon?
You could be like a counselor, I think.
It's changed several times.
Yeah, you have to have your professional admin license, and I think that would cover.
But you have to have a teacher's license to get your professional. I know TSBC is kind of, Maureen was here, she's a.
Oh, yeah. Here's our example. No.
Perfect.
Nothing's changed.
Right.
It's like, oh, I checked the box, I was in a classroom, I want like someone who was passionate about being a classroom teacher. And there's peer evidence that they were effective. And have that.
The question is, when we're going through and looking at their application, do you want us to say, check the box teacher, yes or no?
I mean, I would, but I'm one of 7 people, so I don't know.
I'm gonna. But, you guys just have people coming from the superintendency from many different backgrounds. Mike, were you with me?
Yeah.
Oh,
I think the one challenge you might face is like potentially some of us even sitting over here, like the last time I taught was 2009. But I was an
there are people
instructional
who
leader.
worked with you who can say, and then you do all these other things, right? Like coaching and administration. And clearly like that was your passion, that you help people be good at that, right? Like.
So I think that I was just thinking in terms of like, you wouldn't have that necessarily.
You're like exactly who I mean by that. Like that's like looking in the mirror.
So,
Okay.
but does
Yeah.
that mean that you won't take the doctoral education student that comes out and has awesome leadership but hasn't taught?
I wouldn't,
Really?
really,
Okay.
I think it'd be hard.
but
for that
I'm one of
person to have a
7.
District leadership role somewhere else.
There are superintendents who
What
have.
Medicare captured
an
is that
executive
instructional
administrative
leader, which is one thing, a demonstrated record of being an instructional leader.
Yeah.
And then has been a classroom teacher, that's a different thing.
I don't think you can be an instructional leader if you haven't been a classroom teacher. They're not. Really? Yes.
Okay. Well,
That's okay, that's.
When Mike was applying, there was a person from Intel that had thrown their name in the hat. Never been an educator, but just felt that they had the management experience to do the job.
Absolutely. And there are different philosophies, right? But that is mine. So.
Well, yeah, and that's why we're getting a broad point of view. I will point out that a former superintendent in Seattle was a retired Army general and was beloved. You know, so one of my very best bosses had been a Boeing engineer, came to the school district as the district financial director, wonderful boss. And he became an instructional leader because he worked.
I think what maybe Lisa's getting at is that when you talk to our teachers and our other educators, there's a certain amount of street cred that comes with having taught.
Street cred is exactly what I mean.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
That's
If you
right.
said street cred, I think I would. Okay.
Thanks, Mike.
You're welcome.
I would say values. I'm not sure exactly how you want to word it, but values every employee. I want to make sure they see the part-time crossing guard and the janitorial staff. Everyone, I want them to see it not just as check boxes on a financial report, but as people with a story and people that valued and honored.
So all that.
Yes.
Thanks.
A leader who is a good, who's demonstrated good stewardship of district resources and is fiscally responsible.
Can I just put $1 sign there? What was the last part?
Good steward of district resources and fiscally responsible.
Do we have hard choices on the first page? Is that where that
It's
one?
on there somewhere. I think it's on the top,
What's that?
making.
It's at the top, making
Okay.
hard, fair,
I think those two go together.
Take a little bit back to communication with, being an active listener, thoughtful of their speech and communication, they think about the words that they're using and how they phrase things.
How about a skilled communicator?
Like that,
Um,
An active listener.
The listening part's important.
Listening.
Yeah.
Like that. And we said a couple of things about,
Just thoughtful in speech and communication. Yeah, just in how they phrase, how they put things together. They're thinking of what they're saying.
back to the beginning.
I want to make sure everybody agrees, but I think Monique's just covered. Erica had a leader who was articulate and eloquent communicator, both orally and writing, and an empathetic listener demonstrating positive and humble approach. Feels like that's covered there.
Yes.
Do we need a second?
But articulate.
Yeah, no, I
So,
think, I
Add some
think
color.
the words tend to be barriers in terms of bias against certain groups of people. And I don't want to support eloquent or articulate anywhere. I think just being an empathetic, strong communicator is fine.
Okay.
Well, we'll come back to that. So I just want to finish with what Erica wrote, said, because it follows up on Monique's.
Yeah, I feel like that. I'm skipping ahead in her list to sort of connect with that. So I feel like just enhancing Monique's is better than adding a whole.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
Sorry, I feel like, just wanted to check with the board, like, I feel like, and just a couple of enhancements to what Monique said covers Erica's bullet point here.
Would you read her whole thing again?
A leader who is an articulate and eloquent communicator, both orally and in writing, and an empathetic listener, demonstrating a positive and humble approach. I love the humble approach part, but like, they're gonna get the job by telling us how great they are.
Yeah, it's tough. It's nice and balanced.
and these days, it'll be a game changer.
All right. Martin?
Hopefully they get.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that was my sort of first one. You feel like, so that's, have we covered for Erica? A reflective leader has the ability to support others to achieve their highest potential, whose actions inspire loyalty and longevity among staff. Can we just, is there something we can annotate on another one, or do you want this to be a separate bullet point?
Wait, read it again.
We had, one of the first one was to build morale.
A reflective leader who has the ability to support others to achieve their highest potential, whose actions inspire loyalty and longevity among staff.
I think it should be its own.
Something. All right, then that's Erica's next one.
So we covered that, or we need to?
No, I think you have to add that. That's not under building morale.
I was thinking you could probably cross out my first one and just go with that, frankly. Like my first one was like building a team, empowering them to become the best they can. I feel like
Maybe like
she said it better than me.
Cultivate, or, yeah, maybe instead of build, cultivate. And then I think
Sure.
it kind of makes.
Read it to me one more time.
Read Erica's?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. A reflective leader who has the ability to support others to achieve their highest potential, which I think that was kind of the spirit of mine, whose actions inspire loyalty and longevity among staff.
Okay, so inspirational. And build loyalty. That, I mean, those key phrases.
Build loyalty amongst staff.
Achieve potential. That's important to me for that. Like that.
What's the last part?
I feel like that's part of the spirit of what I had too.
I want to make sure I capture it, so.
Support others to achieve their highest potential, whose actions inspire loyalty and longevity among staff. I'll probably put a post-it next to that one instead of mine. I feel like it captures it a little bit better than I did.
Okay, Nancy? Oh, no, excuse me. Mark,
That's
one
fine.
more.
We can move on. Go ahead.
My next one is super important, but I want someone who demonstrates servant leadership. That's a very specific thing. Did you know you're a servant leader?
Try to be. Thank
That's
you.
what I thought. See? Okay.
Mark, did you have anyone?
No, I'll scratch up another one of mine and put Erica's on there though.
With your permission, Mark, I'm gonna cross off this other one to build the team,
Sure.
okay? Okay,
And maybe my one about connecting communities is better said by a leader who is visible, accessible, and approachable presence in our community and district while building strong relationships in a calm and even-tempered manner.
wow.
Yeah, you want to just hand this to you? A leader who is visible, accessible, and approachable, a leader who is a visible, accessible, and approachable presence in our community and district while building strong relationships in a calm and even-tempered manner.
So visible, accessible, approachable in the district and in the community.
Yeah,
I'm trying to help you get to the short version.
there you go.
And then there was some other stuff after that that comes if you achieve that, then you get the rest of that.
Yeah.
Good, Doug?
Was the word trust in there?
Not in that one,
Okay,
in other places, yeah.
okay. All right. Lisa,
Okay. I think demonstrated experience navigating tricky and or controversial issues in the school district would be useful.
Yes. That's good. I'm with Lisa, I'm gonna need some more Post-its.
You said it was our church, Dad.
You guys
Said.
Yeah.
We demand more Post-its.
Patrick?
I really think most of the big ones can be to some level encapsulated things that have been written, so I'm gonna pass for now.
Okay, gosh, Sina?
I think this has already been mentioned, but not written. It was mentioned in this conversation, but really someone who is willing to make a long-term commitment to the district.
Yeah.
I thought about it,
Sure.
but.
Yeah. Yeah,
Require it, it's.
it came up a bunch in the search firm discussions about how long their successful placements were in the position.
Yeah.
But I don't know how to, so sorry, let me go before I ask again.
Well, again, we'll see. Did we say something about dedicated to the community? Maybe that was in the first.
Somebody said, well, wait, okay, so let's go back, Doug. When you write our thing, people are going to know that we have a 15-year vet.
Oh, sure.
That is now retired.
Yeah, they're gonna.
Does that in and of itself say what we want to say? Aaron?
I think everybody's gonna interpret that differently.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Longevity in a superintendent, 15 years.
Yeah.
Mike's unique.
We may not get that yet.
I can't think of it. I think maybe Koresh and Lake Oswego, the last really long term others too, but I'm not sure. of anybody.
Randy Shields.
Pardon?
Randy and Tillamook.
Yeah, Randy and Tillamook was 20.
Are you a dinosaur? What?
Yeah.
No, it's an average.
Average tenure, urban is probably 3 years, probably when you're looking at it's different, like Hillsboro, you're probably talking 5-ish to 7.
I did look this up through AASA, and I think they said it's just right at 4 years for national average, not based on size.
I'm just gonna play devil's advocate just a little bit. We all have particular feelings about Mike leaving. And we're hoping, I think, to get sort of a Mike clone or like take the best parts of, like, that's really what this list is, the things that we value most about mics. But the fact is, we're not gonna get another mic, we're gonna have somebody else. And so do we really want this rando that we don't know who it's going to be for 15 years? We might not. You know, like maybe we're ready for them to go in a few years. We don't know who they are. So let's wait and see. You know, I'm not ready to commit yet. So
One of the
just want
things,
to put that out there.
one of the things that you could look at for a criteria is, do you want someone that's jumped around a lot?
Right.
And maybe that's just something you pay attention.
Right. We've been in your current district for a long time. Or they
So maybe the way to phrase this is shown a track record of dedication to their.
Or commitment, yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I like that.
Yes, I like that.
Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and ask my question that I was holding off on. Is your intent to use the input from all of these as you filter our applicants and create our advertisement, or just with the 5 that we propose this next to?
When we're done with the lists, I'm gonna ask you to vote for 5.
And are all the rest discarded? Do they remain in the archive of the knowledge base for Hillsboro as how you search our candidates?
They will be part of our archive. They'll be part of what we're thinking about.
So even if
But
something
the
doesn't get
advertisement-
posted,
But pardon?
even if something doesn't get a post-it put next to it, all these things were enumerated become part of what your firm considers valuable to the board.
All, you know, like I said, if you get a 25, a list of 25.
Sure.
You get to that point of diminishing marginal.
It doesn't have to be all put on the, yeah, I understand, like, you know how to craft an advertisement better than I for this job.
And
But I would like to think that that all this conversation will play into how you guys
recruit
the applicants, yeah.
But what will rise are those things you really value most. And there's a lot of things that you value most, and that's what we really want to focus on, but the rest will help support that. Is this yours, Stephen?
Yes.
Okay, are you okay with this track record of agreement? All right. Wayne?
Strives for excellence.
Track record of striving for excellence. Okay. And the readers. Okay,
I believe all of hers have been accounted for, except for maybe this one. You guys can tell me if maybe this is, I feel like the flavor of this is amongst the other things we said. A leader who has a record of building trust and maintaining superior working relationships with employee associations, staff, student, and our diverse community. Feels like,
I don't see the word trust though.
yeah, trust is the only word that we don't have up there, but if you start,
It's right here. Problem solver, collaborator, deals with conflict that builds trust. Is that yours? Whose was that? The ability to build trust. Okay.
and I feel like a lot of this was encapsulated with Patrick's value every employee.
Okay. Nancy?
I'm tapping out.
Okay.
Because when you said we only have to vote for 5, then
Well, but you get to vote on all of
But
these, not
this
just
is,
yours.
that's why I brought it up, like,
Yeah.
like all of what we say goes into their search, their analyzation. It may not all end up in our averages. I think, so what you're gonna ask us is to pick post-it notes next to the ones we want advertised as our external view.
Exactly. Do you have anything to add, Nancy?
Well, the only thing I'm concerned about is our relationship with our teachers.
Okay. Teachers or teachers union? No, it's.
That's a good
Partly
point.
what the last one was what's this person's track record on labor relations? I mean, I think has a person been in a district where there's good labor relations or there have been conflict? So,
Or do you come from a district with no labor relations?
Oh, right.
Meaning no teaching.
so do you want me to add that, track record of good labor relations? Not very articulate.
Yeah, superior working relationships with employee associations. Maintain superior working relationships with employee associations, that sort of, let's say, this last one, sort of in there, whatever.
Relations. That's,
Okay,
That makes sense.
because classified staff have a union
Yeah.
and the teachers have one.
And that's where it builds trust, I think was the other piece.
And we may have applicants from districts who don't have.
Exactly.
That would be, well, that'd be pretty unusual in this day and age, especially.
Believe it or not, the state of Georgia does not have teacher unions.
Yeah, I think anywhere in the southeast, you're gonna run into
Yeah.
that, so.
I think Illinois.
Okay, Lisa,
Yeah, I'm sorry, I have more. I think.
do not apologize.
Okay, I'm not sorry. I really wasn't anyway, it wasn't sincere. So I think it would be nice for someone to have experience in various aspects of district operations, not just like, whatever.
Broad leadership.
Human resource or whatever, yeah, like maybe not necessarily like they've held like positions in multiple departments, but perhaps a like demonstrated history of, I don't think so then, but like collaboration, right? Like working together within, so they are familiar since,
Is that different from those first two?
yeah. I mean, I don't know what first two you mean, but I think so. What are the first two you mean?
Well, no, we had two at the top and he said, it was part of our requirement.
Bringing people together. Oh, over a requirement. Yeah, I think we said two requirements. Like you can have a
Just the
license
two,
and you.
The 5 years and the whatever.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Because you could, have 5 years of experience all doing just one thing and like being in your silo.
Got it.
And I want somebody not a silo.
Okay.
This is again our desire to call Mike, right? Classroom teacher, building principal,
Okay, please,
HR, and
I'm
then.
honest.
okay, Lisa, we're down to the rest of your list.
Just me, okay. So this kind of connects to, but I think it should be like also written on there, the long-term commitment track record of like loyalty to your current district. But someone who's specifically passionate about HSB, like not just like trying to be a superintendent somewhere, but like is like, dude, I'm all about Hillsboro.
How do you do that?
I don't know, but I'm putting it on the list.
Okay.
But I don't know.
I agree, everyone's gonna say that, I hear what you're saying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But hopefully we can, I don't know.
I just don't want to rule somebody out just because they don't live here.
No, they don't have to live here. But like, oh my gosh, my family and I have always wanted to come to the Northwest and we love this thing about the Hillsboro community. We fell in love and we went on this visit and did this thing. And then you're like, oh my gosh, you like are super gonna be here forever.
Okay.
Not just like, oh, I don't care.
Okay, we just go right back to it. So then
Okay.
I'll go again then.
Oh, you are.
I skipped a couple rounds. So, I don't even know if it's worth quantifying or it's probably not gonna make it into an ad, but something that I would sort of value is a track record of, leadership in a district with both urban and rural communities.
Is there anything that's not included?
I can, no, like, the distinction
I
of,
think people in Portland think of us as rural. I think people in Yandell think of us as urban.
Yeah.
so, Mark, are you saying experience in
In the-
both urban
Yeah,
and rural or?
in the same, yeah, like, I don't,
Either way.
yeah, I don't, it's not gonna end up with a Post-it note next to it. But what I'm saying is, it's, in some ways, I had it on my list, but it dovetails with what Lisa said about HSD, and I would say not just Hillsboro, because I was part of HSD and I'm only recently started living in Hillsboro. Why?
I wrote HSD on my list and deleted Hillsboro, but then I
Yeah.
said it wrong.
Proud to be HSD means loving Farmington View and Lincoln Street, right?
Lisa?
Last one, get ready.
Okay.
I think it would be important for us to be aware of the skill set of our current cabinet and try to find someone that has complementary skills.
And that's a key.
Yes,
That's right.
yeah. But we can't have somebody that comes in and doesn't get along with the executive staff.
Okay, does anybody have anything else to ask? Before you get to the next and almost final phase.
Next exercise.
Okay. So.
Oh, going with the wall. Okay.
Okay. And I'll read them to you so you can kind of get an idea. So you have 5 posted notes.
It's almost like you're done. We want it done.
Oh.
What I'm going to
Small fight.
do
Post prayer.
is back posted notes is to write 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So each post-it note will represent your first choice, your second choice, third choice, fourth choice, and fifth choice. And you pick your top 5. So I'm reading here. The person who has demonstrated integrity and can bring people together. Person who builds morale. Effective and broad communicator. This is all a track record of. Someone who has a dedication to equity, understands it, lives it, leads it. It's good outcome oriented, it's showing how they can make a difference. A problem solver, collaborator who can deal with conflict, builds trust. Strong professional judgment, make calm, firm, and fair decisions. Strong inspirational leader and is considerate of partners. Ability to be a leader in the community, collaborates with community groups, open to bilingual. An instructional leader, classroom leader, values every employee, all levels, a good steward of the finances, and strictly responsive, a skilled communicator with listening, is thoughtful, articulate, elegant, both orally and in writing, and is a humble person. Reflective leader, inspirational, builds loyalty with staff, supports others to achieve their highest potential, demonstrates service leadership, visible, accessible, approachable in the district and community, builds relations, has experience navigating controversy, track record of commitment, is a track record of striving for excellence, superior labor relations and builds trust, broad leadership experiences, variety of leadership on the resume, passionate about the Hillsboro School District, track record of both urban and rural, and complements the cabinet skills. So use your top 5, and then we'll see how it all comes out. That's what we're paying them for. Right. You don't walk in at all.
No, I mean, it was surprised at all.
I mean,
Right.
We don't always agree. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
If then, we're going to be here in jail. That's right. Now that, right, so.
Keep it up here.
If I can, get started. One person with high integrity who can build, trust and bring people together. That's, top one for everyone. Another person, a couple of votes for broad effective communicator. Quite a few votes for dedication to equity. Person that's, dedicated to student outcomes. One vote for problem solver. A couple votes for strong professional judgment. I'm not sure, I guess this is 2 votes for having a classroom teacher. 2 votes for, values all employees. A good steward of finances, demonstrate servant leadership, and a whole bunch of votes for visible and approachable. And another track record of striving for excellence, and another one passionate about the Hillsboro School District. What I will do then is amalgamate this into a set of understandable qualities and characteristics and get it back to Mark for his kind of review based upon our conversation. I'll have a list of everything, but then I'll kind of put the top ones together. Trying to respect everybody's, the top votes for everybody. This is, I think, the most important things you can do because you started to really think about who it is, just succeeding Mike. You're not replacing Mike, you're finding someone to succeed him. Thank you, at least once, and then Mike.
I've been saying we, that's what the list was turning out to. And that's certainly what I knew before. I'm the one who said I might be okay with just someone here for 2 years. They might need to, you know, we don't know.
But
I just want the record to reflect that Nancy didn't say that. Okay.
This is extremely important for you to have in your mind the kind of person you want to lead the district from here on out. And I'm going to give you my 2 cents for it. Hillsboro is a really good school district. There's no doubt about it. Question is, you need someone who can come in, who can make a really good school district even better. And that's a skill set. You have some people who fix broken districts. Yeah. This is not a broken district. This is a district that's really good. That's how you can do that.
Okay, I'm sorry.
That's my bias.
No, that was that was a really, really good point. But there is something else that we didn't talk about, and it's just in my heart. We love the people on this side of the table.
Mm-hmm.
And I gotta believe that we'll pick the right person for them, but do they have anything to say about this? Because we're picking their boss.
Yeah, they have a couple of
group on that.
opportunities.
So you are a stakeholder group? Yes, yes,
They will have 2 opportunities. First opportunity, they will be a stakeholder group.
Okay.
We will sit down with the cabinet. We'll say, okay, what do you want?
Okay.
What's good about the district? What's good about the community? What's good about the district? What are the issues facing the new superintendent? What are the qualities and characteristics you want? That will be a separate stakeholder group. When we interview, that last round of interviews at the top 1, 2, or 3, they will be a group. They will then, and each of those states, they don't have a vote. The only people who have a vote are the 7 of you. But we will ask them to say, what are the strengths and weaknesses of each candidate? So you will hear their voice.
Okay.
When you're making your decision.
Feel better. Thank you.
Okay. Anything else? Okay.
Mine was gonna be something really similar, which is, can we put Mike on the spot a little bit and just ask, is there anything that you feel has been important to your success that we don't have on the list?
Well, I think it's already been kind of hit on, and that is, I think my first couple of years, I felt like I had to do everything, and not because I knew how to do it, just because I felt like I should for some reason. And once I got out of cabinet's way, and things started going really well. So I think just the ability to empower others, hire great people, and then let them do their job. And of course, there's checks and balances, and we talk all the time, and there's check-ins, but really, you can't, in a district this size, you cannot do it yourself. And so being really comfortable with the leadership that you surround yourself with and letting them go.
We'll remember to ask about delegating skills. Thank you.
Last item.
So, I mean, trust is up there a couple of times.
Yeah.
And I think we trust, you, we selected you and your team.
Yeah.
What I want to make sure we understand is, right, like, all of that has value, whether the post is ended up or not.
Yeah.
You know, we trust you to come up with the best advertisement you can and find us the best person. But hopefully you're hearing us say, like, all of these things are important to us. So as you're culling that list from 25 to 8 or helping us get to 2, all of this should be part of the way we have that conversation.
But I will put it all together. We'll see the top ones that'll basically go into the advertisement and then everything else that supports that. So it'll be there. It'll be important for the rest of the team to see all of that and to hear that. So I'll
And
make sure
I did not put up posters for Erica, because I don't know that I felt qualified to do that. So,
Well, I do also want to say, Doug, that thank you for making it clear that we recognize that we want the candidates to recognize. While we're not perfect, we are not broken. And I like the way you put that, because if you got somebody that's jumping and running around fixing, we don't need fix, we need vision, casting.
Yeah. I think it needs to be real clear. This is somebody who's coming into a really good situation. It's probably, it's harder to come into a district where there's been it's very successful and where it's been a very successful leader. It's hard.
Really?
Yeah. It's easy to walk into a district where things are broken and you just start fixing things and everybody loves you. But, you know, and so I think we just have to recognize that. And that's just down the road. But good, strong people know that and will be able to navigate that and work with the folks in the district.
I can already see myself slipping in the conversation with that person. Well, Mike would know.
Yeah.
Back when Mike was here.
I have to try to.
Yeah.
All right, what's next?
This might be like.
Not fulsome adulation for Mike there. So anyway, last thing that we want to put in the advertisement is salary parameters. In your private folder.
Compensation sheet.
Yeah, there's a compensation sheet and it's lists what current compensation is here for my plus then compares to the 3 districts larger than Hillsboro and the 5 districts smaller than Hillsboro. You can see that the average of the salaries and the average of the comparisons. My recommendation to you right now is not to settle on a number, but in the advertisement to put in what the current average is for like-sized districts, the comparison districts, and then put in what the current total compensation is for Hillsboro. If that's what you want to do, or you can just leave it as both the averages. But I think you have to put it in as this is what is, because I think you're going to need to talk a little bit more about what it is you finally want to settle on. And we want to make sure that it is out there so people are starting to look at it. Compared to other districts, I will tell you, Oregon tends to lag salary-wise. And I know that for a similar sized district in Washington, the salary was comparable to the average, just the salary was equal to about the same as the average compensation packages for these comparative districts. My point being is you don't want to skimp, but you want to make sure the salary and total compensation are attractive.
And maybe before I ever was a board member, I know in some weird hard times and budget cut times, boards found ways to approve Mike's compensation that didn't involve his salary.
Right.
And that's, I think, why we see, salary may be lower, but total compensation is, maybe about where it should be.
Yeah. And what we could do is advertise as current salary, current compensation, some other words about negotiable or something along that line so that people at least know where to start our conversation.
I thought you were gonna say that you're gonna put his current, I'm like, no.
No, I would put that current
current.
salary, current
Public.
compensation.
Public document.
Yeah, but I wouldn't want that in the advertisement.
Yeah.
If you wanna go find it out, then you go do that, but I don't wanna hit salary out there, because then they think that's the bottom line, like, no.
Well,
Can we say, can we use the average?
we could use the average or comparable districts.
Then the problem is that the average is more. And we're gonna be
Yeah,
negotiated up probably anyway, right?
The average is higher than Mike's, but the average compensation is lower than Mike's.
The average
So-
salary is higher than
The
mine.
average
Average
total compensation is
lower.
like 30,000 less, right?
Right.
What if you put an average of the total compensation package? Because that would get at a more accurate comparison.
Yeah, that'd be, yeah.
And the
Okay, I see what you were saying.
advertisement,
Okay.
so you're saying we should be talking about it, but we do need to decide today, because the advertisement will go live before we're next meeting.
Right.
Is that right?
I just need a little guidance on what you want in there.
Doug, if we put in the average, like Mike's suggesting, of the total compensation packages, do you think that this pool of candidates understand that is not just, like, there are all these other buckets in the superintendent compensation package? Or do you think they're gonna come in thinking that's like the base salary?
I think it's how we phrase it to make sure it's clear. It's not, it's salary plus.
Okay. I like Mike's idea then.
Then I like it, I think you have to say total compensation package then. So then they understand that it is gonna be more than just your salary.
Is it common to say, like in the private sector, I think you often see, compensation will be commensurate with the applicants, whatever. Is that a thing you do in the public sector?
Yeah, it's called, depending on experience, DOE. That's
Okay, I like that too.
I think when you get it.
Yeah, I do, just doing these averages as such, Michelle, what's our budget for? Yeah, I mean, we don't wanna put some number out there and then they wanna negotiate and we're out of the league or whatever the case may be.
Well, it hasn't technically been set yet, as part of our budget, that typically it would be, Mike would have his current compensation, and it would be increased the same as our licensed teachers, which is a 3% increase over his current salary. The other components, tend to differ year by year, depending on, well, it's just been different. Often, like they said, depending on what the budget outlook has been, he has deferred compensation increases and then taken it in other forms. So that's why his wages are a little bit kind of close, but in terms of budget, we would appropriate a 3% increase in alignment with what we do for our licensed staff for next year, just because those contracts are already in place.
So we'll find a way to wordsmith that so that at least people have a direction. I think candidates want to have an idea of what it is that they're talking about, and again, our advice to a board is don't who's a really good candidate over a few $1,000.
I just, the only other thing I was thinking about was the fact that we know is potential that we may not get a district budget increase at all. And we might lose a few things.
Yeah. Well, I want to thank you.
This is traditionally, when you replace the superintendent, you can usually end up spending more on a new person.
Well, yes, but you're bringing in someone that has that's a seasoned superintendent that has a really good track record. The answer is almost always absolutely. If you're bringing in someone who is a good person, and this might be their first superintendent, not necessarily.
Okay.
So a little bit of that comes back to the negotiation, who the person is, what they're bringing to the table. So I think typically they'll always want to start, going back to your Nancy, they'll always want to start with, okay, this is what current salary is. That's usually what they want to start.
Salary, the person who's been here for 13 years.
Right, which we know is not.
I'm saying, like, it's not apples to apples.
No.
I know, but I know we don't have any choice. Thanks, Mike. But I'm just saying, that's not apples to apples.
Let's use my salary for
Right.
As you've all said, Mike's been here a long time.
Right.
He's built up a certain compensation package.
Yes.
And that compensation package comes with longevity.
Yeah.
Yeah, you may not want to be as generous to the next person coming in,
Exactly.
but that's your conversation.
A lot of
You
our
wanna get something out
discussions
there.
during contract time are rewarding his longevity, like,
Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
there's a reason why when Intel does a rip, it's the older people who make more that get let go.
Right. This took an ugly turn.
Make sure I'm paying attention though. You said in your experience in some other states, salaries for superintendents are, you're saying slightly higher. So will listing this average cause some superintendents in those states not to consider coming here or to consider it less, do you think?
Or, you know, you may have a person coming from the state of Washington, for example. And they may say, I'm ready for my last superintendency. I've been a superintendent, I can retire, and boy, it's a good salary, I'll go. I said that for comparison purposes. You want to kind of be in the ballpark, you don't have to be right there. And we know in some places in California, salaries are much higher, but still, people are looking for a good opportunity. And sometimes and I would say in education, salary is usually less of an issue. I would tell you the first thing, if I was going to apply for this job, and I called up Mike, and the first question I'd say is, okay, Mike, tell me about your board. What are you good at?
Oh, I don't want to listen to that.
But seriously,
But that's the question.
that is probably the key variable for many candidates. They may be in a good situation, but they don't want to walk into a place where there's been a high degree of conflict and issues. They want to know coming in, they're good people to work with.
Right.
That is the bottom line. I don't know, Mike, would you?
No, 100% agree. I've had a couple people call, and that is the question they want to know. I mean, it's just too common anymore for people to get let go or for there to be a conflict that gets in the way with their continued employment, and that's what they want to know.
Yeah.
So what do you tell them about conflict?
Question. What are the pros and cons between listing the average total compensation versus the range of lowest and highest compensation?
Well, at this point in time, until you're absolutely set on low to high, you don't want to set up a false expectation.
Yeah.
You want to at least, and that's why I said this current salary alone is what the current salary is, and just leave it at that. And then put depending on experience and other compensation available, something along that line. But you don't want to lock yourself in initially. That's, in many positions, particularly, say you're hiring for a principal, there's already a salary schedule you put high, depending on experience. And you don't have a salary schedule for superintendent.
Should they do something from that third gray shaded line?
I guess my worry is if someone comes in who has less experience, and so we would want to give them less than, I guess, what the average is, but they are seeing that number and expecting that to be a base.
That's one of the issues. They could see that as salary only. But again, it's going to be part of the negotiation with a successful candidate. And you want to at least give yourself some wiggle room so you're not locking yourselves in to so, but I'm just going to go back. Nancy's fear that they're going to want to start bottom line being what the current salary is. That's where they're going to start no matter what. They're going to know it, they're going to find it out.
Doug, don't people typically give you a call though? Like if they were getting ready to apply, would they call and have that conversation before they decided to apply, or does that not happen?
Yes and no. Some people do, some people don't.
Okay.
Like I said, every search takes on a life of its own because it's a different board, a different district, and different set of candidates.
Sure. I think you're right that, most people in education, salary isn't the primary driving factor. That's not what we want to be the primary driving factor. We just want to make sure, we get the best candidates and competitive.
Yeah, they've already
And that's
chosen to
where-
work in the public sector, right? In education.
And that's why we put in things depending on experience and, you know, some other wiggle room to let that person know that, you know, this is telling what is just at least gives people a place to start and doing averages and whatnot. So,
But we trust you to write it up and to.
yeah, and you'll have final say on that piece.
Right.
Okay. At least Mark will, and he can learn by the rest of the board.
But I think the part for me to take away is what you said. One, we're not broken. We're not perfect, but we're not broken. And two, we are not replacing money. What we are doing is choosing a leader for the next generation. That's what we're doing.
Yeah.
Got it.
And you're good at this.
Yeah.
I picked it.
There you go.
All right. Thank you.
That's it. We checked all our boxes. I think, what was the last thing? Other stuff, whatever.
Yeah, I don't know. I think we've kind of covered everything that I might.
And we're an hour.
What's that?
We're like an hour behind. Oh, is your wife here or is she out?
We only started a half an hour.
Oh, my.
Well, you know, where we live, we're in a shopping desert, so she hit Target, she hit Trader Joe's.
Oh.
Additional information or questions was the last item on their agenda. Anybody have anything for that? All right.
Thank you.
Nice to meet all of you.
There you
Thank you
go.
very much. Appreciate it. And we look forward to the next time we get together. And between now and then, we're working. We just don't see the work. we're doing.
Absolutely.
So,
Oh, absolutely. Thank you so much.
Thank you. All right.
Thank you. Next item on our agenda is a couple of A-Rs. Looks like if you have questions regarding these, you can ask Audrey. Anything you want to share? Are we good? Just presenting our packet.
It's what is in the packet. I think I answered most of some questions I responded to and good questions.
All right.
But otherwise,
Next item is the first reading for some just one policy. Policy.
Only one. We've never know. It doesn't work.
We
We just bring one.
You got any questions again about what the pension policy? That's the update.
that's the update. Yeah, the change is kind of what we talked about with last year presenting and some changes. So that one has the date change that we talked about on the policy itself.
All right, so let's consider on first reading. All right, discussion time. Let's go around, like anybody who have anything they want to share from the OSBA conference. So we traditionally, when the district KSB just had something, we give you an opportunity to share out insights or whatever at some point. So does anybody have anything they would like to share regarding their attendance to OSBA this year?
I think the one thing I want to go on the record is it was so awesome to have our student with us. We were shocked that nobody else had their student with them. And it's not that we were putting them on display, because we were awesome and people wanted to talk and they really respected us and the fact that we had you there. And we were proud to have you there. And we hope you enjoyed hanging out with the old folks. But it was really good. It really was. It spoke a lot. And we had many people coming up to us and saying, oh my gosh, you did that? Really? Blah, blah, blah. And so it was really nice. So thank you.
Has become a thing that we bring students.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I could also say the same. It was an honor being there. I did kind of feel, different, but it's all right. One thing I did notice was that, me as a student, I played competitive sports and, I always look at like different districts and different schools as like, competitive and like, they're like, I guess our enemy. But like, once it comes to education and like, we get together and share ideas and how we can improve, as a state, as a community. So that was something that stood out.
Awesome. Sure, Patrick.
I think I've shared a little bit of previous meetings.
Yeah, we all have.
I'm a little tired tonight, but I heard you say again. I didn't get really early this morning, but so I may be a little incoherent, but my favorite part was when we had a session with the other board members from Washington County. We all sat and talked about things our district is going through, lessons learned, legislative priorities, state funding, just sitting and talking with the leaders, board members for many years in our area was incredibly valuable to me and much more valuable than a lot of the generic panels and such. So my feedback to OSBA when they sent out the survey asking for feedback was more of that. That was really valuable. And I think I said this before, but it was really neat to meet the gentleman from, so I know it's not clear which district it was. He'd been a school member for 37 years. Really
That's how we kicked off the day, right? Yeah, 37 years. We're down south, right?
I don't know the election, but
Yeah. Right. And it was at that summit with the other, the group with the other Washington County board members that came up with the idea of sort of with the legislature changing so dramatically to reach out to them ahead of time. And I think we talked about what a great idea that ended up being, and something we should consider in the future that when new legislators are coming in, it can be pretty powerful to invite them to sit at the lunch table with a bunch of kids in the 4th grade.
Oh, yeah.
They get a little photo op and we're able to get, make sure that before they get inundated with 3-letter acronyms and numbers, they get a sense of what the district's perspective is.
I have the most loquacious 4th grader in the district in my house.
Yeah.
Let me know, okay?
I guess I would also share this, that, it was great to be back in person with a bunch of people, and it was pretty great.
These ideas were awesome.
With that, after Michelle, I got to facilitate her presentation on hers, which I've seen a few times, and yet still, every single time I see it, something has changed and I learned something new, so.
And everybody was talking about it.
Yeah.
That was the cool part.
Yeah, Michelle co-facilitated a great presentation on hers. I guess the other note I have was the pre-conference, the all-day pre-conference. The afternoon speaker was Jessica Malaire-Beth, who is the Director of Educational Equity at the Center for Equity Inclusion, who just also happened to be a Hillsboro parent. And so, as people are asking questions, I didn't know that. I had the mic around the edge or something, and she's like, and that's my school district, Hillsboro. That like, whoa. So she knew who we were, and I think she's proud to be HSD. Cool. All right. Next up is student time. You guys didn't get a chance to talk that much today, so here you go.
Okay, well, I want to say, I hope you guys had a great holiday break and I hope you guys had a good new year. I hope you guys are well rested from that and have some resolutions. Mine was to try to get even more involved with my music program, even though I live for youth and like eat sleep band. So I'll be playing in my school's it is like our music ensemble for our upcoming play Singing in the Rain, which is like the most I'm losing my words. I'm tired. Most iconic play. It's so ambitious. Like we're gonna try to actually get to right on stage. And so I've just been going to all my teachers and asking them to help donate to this amazing play that I'm really excited to partake in. Right?
Do we know the show dates for those yet?
We're gonna say send those to Rose.
Yes. Will you do that?
Huh?
Could you send Rose the
Yeah,
dates so we
any
can, she can
show
send
or
it to
any
the board?
performance that you guys are doing, always send it to Rose and she'll get it to us and we'll be like, yeah.
I have a marginal competition coming up.
Okay, I'll never do that.
Well, I just wanted to say that, I've been looking into some scholarships for, getting my aviation pilot's license. So that's been really stressful, but, we're going. And I've also been looking on to scholarships for education wise for university and college stuff like that. I've been really stressed. Can't wait for senior year. But yeah, that's been going on.
Well, I just committed to college and I got a really big scholarship from the school that I want to go to. So that's pretty exciting. It was a academic one too. I committed to go to OSU for my undergrad. And then I have two like attorneys I'm working with that graduated from Lewis and Clark for my JD. So
I'm sorry. Does that mean you want to be a lawyer?
That's why I like it. Speaking of, I'm running a mock trial club, I guess, at my school. The competition is in February at the Washington County Courthouse. I'll invite you, don't worry. But I did kind of just a little self brag. I'm doing opening and closing this year. Well, I have 4 parts. I'm opening, closing. I'm a direct attorney and a cross attorney as well. But I did both my opening and my closing in front of 2 actual Oregon attorneys, and they told me that it was like a real life trial. So kind of doing big things, kind of exciting.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Way to go. Move court, coming your way.
That is all.
All right, Mike, do you have anything you want to add tonight?
I would just say 2 things really quick. First of all, thank you for the nice comments during this process. It is incredibly awkward to sit here. But I, not choked up, I just was choking. So really am pulling for getting just the right person here. And I think the process will bear out exactly what it's supposed to be. So looking forward to supporting that person. I also would say, some of the stuff that you don't see that we do behind the scenes that's good examples happen in our administrative meeting today. A long stretch of the time that we spent together was principals learning about literacy and what it takes for good literacy instruction and how to make that happen at their schools. And so the OSP team that we have did just such a nice job with that. And that's not exciting stuff that you see. It's not going to be in the paper. Well, it hasn't been in the paper, but it's just those necessary things that cause great things to happen in the district. So yeah, literacy and school improvement plans today. It doesn't sound exciting, but it's such good stuff and it matters for kids. So that's it.
All right. Board directors time. Nancy's not. Okay, so we'll start down there and we'll go this way. Monique, do you have anything like that today?
Say Happy New Year to everyone, and I'm looking forward to a busy, end to the year. This board year.
Jen? Patrick?
I was visiting with someone I know in a family member in a different state. They're telling me that it's a pretty large urban school district. At the school board meeting in December, they opened the meeting with a choir of students singing Christmas carols. And so I was thinking maybe we should look into that next year. But other than that,
We used to have like that at the beginning of our regular session. I think pandemic kind of ended that. So yeah, I'd give a thumbs up. We had mariachi come. We've had so many. Yeah. I'd be okay with that. Agenda somewhere. Skip Nancy, vice chair, little Lisa back.
Oh, okay. I think when I last did discussion time, I gave a plug for the South Meadows Middle School production Taha House. It was a hit. It was funny. So some actors actually got hit with trays, and that would be my child. So that was a proud parent moment for sure. And then another proud parent moment actually happened today. Both of our kids are part of the dual language program in the school district, and Lily is in 4th grade. And she's been working really hard this last 2 school years to get her Spanish reading level up to grade level, because we're a monolingual English household, and so that's a struggle since her Spanish exposure was in school. And today she finally got results from her latest reading test, and both her all the thingies are in the 4th grade level finally. So it's very exciting. She's very proud of herself. Yay, Lily. So but also it's just what an awesome gift that we are giving to the students and the community to be able to kind of become it's incredible. Such great communicators in multiple languages, and to have that be an asset. It's something I'm really proud of and happy about that my kids get to take part in. So that's my discussion time. Thanks for putting up with me today.
Nancy, anything you want to add tonight?
It feels good to be with you all. And I mean that because my little boy's growing up, and he's growing up because of what you guys are doing. And thank you, Mike, for sending a text to say, hey, your school's about to be on fire. Oh my God. So I sent a text to my kid that said, you know what this is, don't go looking for the building, you don't look at all of those things, and you know what I'm talking about, but I do want to say that the journey to get him to where he is today, 6'2", size 14, shoe. He's out of the stinky stage. He's driving to school, and I can't tell you how good it feels. It's like the light came on for this kid. So it's just, but I wouldn't have been able, I'm telling you, it's because of you guys that I can say that, oh my God, we're turning the corner, and it just feels good. So thank you. I look at you guys and I'm like, oh my God, am I gonna make it? But we make it. And you told me it was gonna happen like that. And I just didn't believe you because I just couldn't see it. So thank you. But thank you also to the staff for that. It's had to be incredibly hard to not have your time up on that board. And I respect that. But I want you to know we're committed to making sure that you get the best leader possible. So thank you.
Thank you. May have come up before that I am from Chicago, and I'm like you. When people say nice things about me, I get very, very nervous. I'm looking for the Brutus with a knife. Like, I'm like, this doesn't make sense. And it's kind of stuff only you said at your funeral. So makes me very nervous. I want to share that we were able to, at Hill High, in former board member Wayne Cliff's classroom, able to do the swearing in ceremony for Oregon's new labor commissioner, a nonpartisan position. Kind of came together at the last minute. Hopefully people knew about it. They had the ability. It was on Friday afternoon. Kaylee and I just reached out to her to say congratulations on the position, and she mentioned, "Oh, awesome, thanks." But they said I could pick where I want to be sworn in. How about my alma mater, Hill High? And Hill High was in our campaign. So we were able to put it together last minute, and the Supreme Court Justice who came and did it, she looked at me and went, "Oh, I guess it's time to change." Like, what do you mean? It's got a robe and a purse. I'm back in the Supreme Court Justice robe. I'm like, that's kind of amazing. All right. So it was great to be able to, yeah, whip down a robe. So it was cool to be able to attend that. I want to give a reminder. If you saw the OSBA email today reminder, the legislature passed a bill to now start including us as people that need to file a statement of economic interest. It will be required of us this year for the first time ever. There are hundreds of positions, hundreds of people in the state who have to file this. Mike has been filing one the entire time to the superintendent. For what it's worth, as the legislature was debating this, legislators reached out to me as a member of the board saying, "What are your thoughts on this?" And my thought was, yeah, I mean, it seemed weird for other people who are elected and serve the public to not have to do this. So I supported the bill if passed. So you'll get an email at some point. Rose will make sure that all the right people will be guided through the process. It won't be hard.
It's pretty quick.
It's pretty good. So, but yes, just a reminder that I think the deadline sometime in March, but you're all gonna have to file a statement of economic interest.
Did you tell the legislators that all those other people get paid?
What's that?
Just asking for.
What's that?
File that get paid for their volunteerism.
They all do get paid and we don't.
Okay, good.
That's fair.
Right.
Yep.
Okay, great.
But we are entrusted with a $280 million budget.
I'm just.
Sure.
It's all right.
I just want to thank all my colleagues for tonight. It's been a longer than we expected, a lot of work. I feel like we're just at the outset of this process. I think Doug is right. This is the most important job we have. And so it'll require a lot of extra work for all of us over the course of the next 3 months, 4 months. I understand some of you terms will be ending at that point and may or may not be considering running for re-election. So you're gonna have to be scheduling extra meetings, potentially running a campaign. I sympathize with you, but also we have to do this. So I appreciate everybody being willing. We're gonna have extra meetings. I don't feel like the extent of all the extra stuff was conveyed tonight. So in my previous discussions with Mike and Rose, it feels like it's gonna be very much. So expect the district to ask a lot of your time over the course of the next few months. And hopefully we'll be able to answer that call and find ourselves in that leader of our district. And with that, We are adjourned.